Hey friends, welcome to the Horror Sleep. Almost 90% of you watching aren't subscribed. If you enjoy these true park ranger horror stories, hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps the channel. Oh, and where are you watching from tonight? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever been caught in a real blizzard? The kind that completely engulfs the world, turning everything into a white wall. A blizzard so fierce that you can't even look back at your own footprints before they disappear. That night, I found myself in exactly that kind of situation. That's where I heard Jace's call for help. My name is Ethan Kincross, and I've been a forest ranger in the Colorado Rockies for 12 years. I've pulled hypothermic hikers out of valleys, calmed panicked climbers clinging to frozen cliffs, even rescued a family of 4 from under 8 feet of avalanche debris. I've seen what the mountains can do to people who don't respect them. I've even seen what they can do to people who do. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for that January night. It started like most winter emergencies do, a phone call. Dispatch patched through around 6:47 p.m., right as I was settling into my station with a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. A snowboarder hadn't returned from a run. Jace Whitmore, 26 years old, experienced backcountry rider, all the right gear. He'd gone up the northeast face of Mount Elbert around noon, told his buddy he'd be back by 4. Now it was almost 7, temperature dropping fast, and a storm system was rolling in that the Weather Service was calling historically significant. His buddy Marcus was damn near hysterical on the phone. Said Jace knew these mountains like the back of his hand, never took stupid risks, always checked in. The fact that he hadn't, that was the red flag right there. I grabbed out my gear. Avalanche transceiver, probe pole, shovel, extra batteries for my radio and GPS, thermal blankets, first aid kit, rope, the works. My partner Sarah was supposed to be on call that night, but she'd come down with something nasty, so it was just me. Just me and whatever was waiting up there in the dark. The drive up to the trailhead took 40 minutes that felt like 4 hours. Snow was already coming down hard. Fat flakes that exploded against my windshield faster than the wipers could clear them. By the time I parked and geared up, visibility was maybe 20 feet, and dropping. I radioed dispatch. Kincross heading up northeast face. Last known position approximately 11,200 feet. We'll check in every 30 minutes. Copy that, Ethan. Be careful up there. Wind's picking up. Gusts are hitting 60 miles per hour at the summit. Understood. I clicked on my headlamp and started climbing. You know what's funny about snowstorms at night? They mess with your head in ways you can't prepare for. Your headlamp catches the flakes and turns them into this swirling chaos of light and shadow. Distance becomes meaningless. You can't tell if that dark shape ahead is a boulder 10 feet away or a tree 50 yards out. Your brain starts filling in the gaps, making patterns where there aren't any. Making you see things, making you hear things. I followed the established skin track up through the trees, my snowshoes crunching in rhythm. The wind was already howling, this low moan that sounded almost human if you listened too close, which I tried not to do. Instead, I focused on my GPS, watching Jace's last known coordinates get closer. 11,100 feet, 11,150. 11,200. Nothing. I stopped, cupped my hands around my mouth. Jace! Jace Whitmore! The wind swallowed my voice like it was nothing. I waited, listening, just the storm, just that endless howl. I keyed my radio. Dispatch, I'm at the LKP. No visual, no response to calls. Continuing search pattern Alpha. Copy. Stay safe, Ethan. Safe. Right. I expanded my search, moving in a grid pattern, stopping every 50 feet to call out and listen. The temperature had dropped to maybe 15 degrees, and with the wind chill it felt like it was below zero. My face was already going numb despite my balaclava. I couldn't imagine what Jace was going through if he was injured, stuck out here without shelter. If he was still alive, no, don't think like that. Stay focused. I was about 100 yards from the LKP when I heard it. Help. Faint. So faint, I almost missed it under the wind. But it was there. A voice, male, coming from somewhere off to my left, deeper into the trees. My heart kicked into overdrive. Jace! Jace, is that you? Help, please. Definitely male. Definitely in distress. I checked my GPS, marked my position, then started moving towards the voice. The trees were thick here, branches heavy with snow that dumped down my neck as I pushed through. My headlamp beam scattered through the falling snow, useless. Keep calling out! I'm coming to you! Help! I was maybe 30 yards in when something made me stop. Something was wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it at first, but then it hit me. The voice wasn't getting louder. I'd covered 30 yards of rough terrain, fighting through waist-deep powder in places, and that voice sounded exactly the same distance away as it had when I first heard it. Same volume, same direction. Like I hadn't moved at all. I pulled out my GPS. According to the device, I'd traveled exactly 32 yards northeast from my last position. But the voice... Help. Ethan. I froze. It knew my name. The wind? Had I misheard? No. It had definitely said my name. But how could Jace know my name? His buddy Marcus hadn't told him. I'd barely spoken to Marcus, just got the basic details. And even if somehow Jace knew a ranger named Ethan worked this area, how could he know I was the one out here searching for him? Jace? How do you know my name? Silence. Just the wind. That low, almost human moan. Then, help. Please help. Back to the generic plea. Like it had reset. Like it was starting over. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to turn around. Get out of there. Radio for backup and wait for daylight. But I couldn't. Someone was out here calling for help. Real or not, I had to check. I pushed forward, following the voice, or trying to. Because here's where it got really weird. No matter which direction I moved, the voice stayed in the same spot relative to me. If I went left, it moved left. If I went right, it moved right. Always the same distance, always the same direction. Like it was tied to me somehow. I stopped, pulled out my GPS again, and felt my stomach drop. I was standing exactly where I'd started. Same coordinates. Despite the fact that I'd been walking for 5 solid minutes, despite the trail of disturbed snow behind me, despite everything, I was right back at my starting point. That's not possible. That doesn't happen. Not in the real world. I spun around, my headlamp cutting through the storm. There was my trail. Clear as day. Deep boot prints leading off into the trees. I'd followed that voice. I'd moved. I knew I had. But the GPS didn't lie. Help! This time it came from behind me. I whirled around. Nothing. Just trees and snow and that suffocating darkness. Who are you? My voice came out shakier than I wanted. Where are you? Help! Ethan, please. To my right, I turned. Nothing. This isn't funny. If you need help, show yourself. The wind picked up, and for just a second, just a split second, it sounded like laughter. Low and rattling and wrong. Then it was gone. Back to that low moan. I keyed my radio with trembling fingers. Dispatch, this is Kincross. Static. Dispatch, do you copy? More static. Then, cutting through, cross, signal, aching up, cation. I'm at the LKP, but something's wrong. I'm hearing a voice, but my GPS says I'm not moving. Radio's breaking up, request backup. not, repeat, cross, then nothing. Dead air. I was alone. That's when I saw the footprints. They were right in front of me, maybe 10 feet away. Fresh. Recent enough that they hadn't been filled in by the falling snow yet. Boot prints, Ranger issue sorrels, the same boots I was wearing, my boots. The prints formed a circle. They went around in a perfect loop, maybe 15 feet in diameter, right where I was standing. And at the center of that circle, right where I stood, the snow was completely undisturbed, like I'd been standing in this exact spot the whole time, like I'd never moved at all. But I had moved, I'd walked, I'd followed the voice. I remembered it. Didn't I? The cold was starting to get to me now. Not hypothermia. I knew the signs, the sluggish thinking, the confusion, the drowsiness. This was different. This was crystal clear terror pumping adrenaline through my veins, making every nerve ending scream. The cold was just there, waiting, patient. I stared at those footprints, my footprints, and tried to logic my way through it. Maybe I'd walked in a circle without realizing it. Maybe the whiteout conditions had disoriented me more than I thought. Maybe the GPS was malfunctioning. All reasonable explanations. All of them bullshit. Because I knew what I'd seen. I knew what I'd heard. And I knew, deep in my gut, that something was very wrong on this mountain tonight. Help! There it was again. But this time, and I swear this is true, it was coming from directly above me. I tilted my head back, my headlamp beam shooting up into the swirling snow and darkness. At first, nothing. Just branches heavy with snow, bending under the weight. Then, about 20 feet up in a massive Douglas fir, I saw it. A shape, human-sized, clinging to the trunk. Jace? The shape didn't move, didn't respond, just hung there, motionless against the bark. But I could see it was definitely a person. Had to be. The proportions were right. Arms, legs, torso. Someone was up in that tree. Jace, if that's you, I need you to answer me. Nothing, just the wind. Just that shape, frozen in place. I approached the base of the tree slowly, my hand instinctively going to the radio on my chest, even though I knew it was dead. The snow around the trunk was undisturbed. No footprints leading to it, no scuff marks on the bark, no sign that anyone had climbed it recently, but someone was up there. I could see them. "I'm coming up," I called out. "Just hold on." I started climbing. The branches were sturdy, thank God, and my gloves found purchase on the rough bark. I kept my headlamp aimed upward, watching that shape. It still hadn't moved, hadn't made a sound. I was 10 feet up when I noticed something that made my heart hammer even harder. The shape was upside down. Head pointing toward the ground, feet toward the sky. Clinging to the trunk in a position that would be impossible to maintain for more than a few seconds, let alone the several minutes I'd been watching it. And yet, there it was. "Jace? Can you hear me?" I was 15 feet up now, close enough to make out details. The figure was wearing dark clothing. No, not clothing. The color was wrong. Too uniform. Too matte. Almost like it was... I stopped climbing. It wasn't clothing, it was the figure itself. The entire thing was one solid, dark mass, human-shaped but featureless. No face. No hands, no texture or variation, just a void in the shape of a person, clinging to the tree trunk upside down. And as I watched, frozen on that branch, it slowly tilted its head toward me. Not head, it. The thing that should have been a head. The smooth, featureless oval where a face should have been. It tilted toward me with mechanical precision, and even though it had no eyes, I felt it looking at me, seeing me. "Help!" The voice came from that smooth, empty head. But the mouth, if you could call it that, didn't move. The sound just emanated from it. I scrambled down that tree so fast I nearly fell twice. Hit the ground hard, stumbled backward, my headlamp swinging wild. When I got it aimed back up at the tree, the shape was gone. Just like that. Gone. Like it had never been there. But I knew what I'd seen, I knew. I backed away from the tree, my breath coming in ragged gasps that fogged in the freezing air. My GPS was buzzing in my pocket. I pulled it out with shaking hands. The screen was going haywire, coordinates flickering and jumping, the satellite indicator spinning in circles. Then it settled on a single set of numbers. My location. According to the GPS, I was standing at 11,247 feet, 47 feet higher than Jace's last known position. But I hadn't climbed. I'd been moving laterally, following that voice. I hadn't gained any elevation. Had I? I looked around, trying to orient myself. The trees looked the same. The snow looked the same. Everything looked the same. But the GPS said I'd climbed. Said I was higher up the mountain than I'd been 10 minutes ago. Unless I'd been climbing the whole time and just didn't realize it. Unless the whiteout and the darkness and the voice had disoriented me so completely that I'd walked uphill without even knowing it. But that didn't explain the footprints, didn't explain the shape in the tree, didn't explain any of this. I checked my watch, 12:23 a.m., another half hour gone. I'd been up here for over 5 hours now, and I was no closer to finding Jace. In fact, I was starting to think, no, don't think that, don't even consider it. But I was. I was starting to think that maybe Jace wasn't out here at all. Maybe there never was a Jace Whitmore. Maybe this whole thing was... My radio crackled to life. "Ethan, can you hear me?" Not dispatch, not Sarah, not any voice I recognized. Male, young, scared. "This is Ethan. Who is this?" "It's Jace. I don't know where I am. Everything looks the same. I keep walking, but I'm not getting anywhere. Can you see me? I can see your light." I spun in a circle, my headlamp cutting through the storm. Nothing. No other lights. No sign of anyone. "Jace, I can't see you. Where are you?" "I don't know. I'm right here. I'm looking at you right now." A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the cold. What am I doing? You're just standing there, in the clearing. You've been standing there for hours. What clearing? I'm not in a clearing. Yes, you are. You're in the middle of it. There are trees all around you. You're just standing. Why aren't you moving? I looked around. Trees. I was in the trees, surrounded by them, not in a clearing, not standing still. I'd been moving, searching, climbing. "Jace, listen to me. I need you to describe exactly what you see." "I see you. In the clearing. Your headlamp is on. You're wearing your ranger jacket. You're just standing there looking around." "Ethan, why won't you move? I need help. I'm so cold." "I am moving. I'm moving right now." I took several steps forward to prove it. "Can you see that? I just walked." "No. You're still in the same spot. You haven't moved." I pulled out my GPS. The coordinates had changed. I'd definitely moved. The device said so. But Jace was saying, "Where are you, Jace? What can you see around you?" "Trees. Snow. It's so dark. I can only see your light. It's the only light. Why won't you come get me?" "I'm trying. I need you to turn on your headlamp. Flash it 3 times so I can locate you." "I did. I've been doing it. You're looking right at me. Why are you pretending you can't see me?" "I'm not pretending. I can't see any other lights." Silence, then. "Ethan, if you can't see me, what are you looking at?" Good question. What was I looking at? I'd been following that voice, chasing shadows and shapes that disappeared. I'd climbed a tree to reach something that wasn't there. I'd walked in circles according to my footprints, but gained elevation according to my GPS. Nothing made sense. Nothing added up. Jace, are you injured? I don't know. I can't feel my legs. I think I fell. I remember falling. And then I was here, watching you stand in that clearing. How long have you been watching me? Hours. Since before dark. You showed up and you just stopped. Right in the middle of the clearing. You've been standing there ever since. Before dark. But I'd only been here since 7:30. Only a few hours. And it had been dark when I arrived. Jace, what time is it? I don't know. My watch stopped. Everything stopped. When did you fall? Around noon, I was taking a run down the north face and I hit a patch of ice, went over the edge. I remembered tumbling, hitting rocks. Then everything went white. When I could see again, I was here, and you were in the clearing. I was starting to understand. Or maybe I wasn't. Maybe understanding was impossible. But I was starting to realize something. We weren't in the same place. We were both on this mountain, both in this storm. But we weren't in the same version of it. He was seeing me in a clearing I wasn't in. I was seeing shapes and footprints he wasn't making. We were overlapping somehow, occupying the same space but experiencing different realities. Or one of us wasn't real. Ethan, you still there? Yeah, I'm here. Jace, I need you to do something for me. What? I need you to look at your hands. Silence. Jace? I can't see them. What do you mean you can't see them? They're not there. I can feel them. I think I can feel them. But when I look down, they're not there. Ethan, what's happening to me? I closed my eyes, took a breath, tried to center myself, tried to think like a ranger, like someone trained for emergencies. But this wasn't in any training manual. This wasn't anything that could be trained for. Jace, when you fell, did you hit your head? I don't know, maybe. Everything's fuzzy. And you said you've been watching me for hours? Yes. Without moving? Without trying to get my attention until now? I was calling to you the whole time. You just ignored me. But I hadn't heard him. Not until that first help, after I reached the LKP. Not until... Wait. Jace, how did you know my name? It's on your jacket. I can see it. I looked down at my jacket. No name tag. No identifying marks except the Ranger insignia. Standard issue. Nothing with my name on it. What else can you see? Your face. You look scared. You keep looking around like you're seeing things that aren't there. I couldn't see my own face. Didn't have a mirror. But I knew what scared looked like. I'd seen it enough times on the faces of people I'd pulled out of bad situations. People who'd stared death in the face and survived to tell about it. People who hadn't survived. Jace, how long have you been out here? Since noon, I told you. No. How long? Days? Weeks? Silence. Jace? I don't know. It feels like longer than it should. But my watch stopped. The sun never came back up. It's just been dark. And you've been standing there, not moving, not helping. My GPS was buzzing again. I looked at the screen. Altitude, 1,147 feet. Temperature, 8 degrees. Time, 12:47 a.m. Date, January 19th. Today's date. Everything matched. Everything was right. Except, I opened the GPS history, looked at my track log, the line showing where I'd been, where I'd traveled. It formed a spiral, starting at the trailhead, moving up the mountain in a perfect logarithmic spiral, tighter and tighter, converging on a single point. The point where I was standing right now, and according to the log, I'd covered over 15 miles. In 5 hours, on foot, in deep snow, impossible, unless I'd been running, unless I'd been moving faster than I realized, unless, help, different voice, female, behind me. I spun around. There, standing at the edge of my headlamp's beam, was a woman. She was wearing summer hiking clothes, shorts, t-shirt, light pack, no hat, no gloves, no gear for winter weather at all, and she wasn't shivering. "Please," she took a step toward me. "I'm lost. Can you help me?" Her lips didn't match the words, like a badly dubbed movie. The sounds came a split second after her mouth moved. "Who are you?" "I'm lost." Same words, same delayed audio. She took another step. I backed away. "Stop. Don't come any closer." She kept walking, slow, measured steps. Her eyes were fixed on me, but they were wrong. The pupils were too large, too dark, like looking into deep wells that had no bottom. "I said, stop!" She didn't stop, just kept coming, one foot in front of the other, mechanical and precise. I fumbled for my radio. "Jace? Jace, are you still there? I'm here. What's wrong?" "Do you see her? There's a woman. She's walking toward me." "No, you're alone. You're still in the clearing, still not moving." But I was moving. I was backing away from this woman who kept advancing, kept closing the distance between us with those measured steps. My back hit a tree. Nowhere to go. She was 10 feet away. 8. 6. I could see details now. Her face was too smooth. No pores, no imperfections, like a mannequin. And her clothes, they weren't moving, not even a flutter in the wind, like they were painted on. 4 feet. "Ethan, what's happening?" Jace's voice crackled through the radio. But I couldn't finish. Couldn't speak. Because the woman had stopped, just 2 feet away, and tilted her head at an angle that was wrong. Too far, too much, and she smiled. Not a human smile. Too wide, too many teeth. Teeth that were all the same size and shape, perfectly uniform, perfectly white. "Help," she said, in that same wrong voice. "Please help." Her hand reached out. Those 2 smooth fingers extending toward my face. I pressed back against the tree, nowhere to go, no way to escape. As those fingers got closer, closer, I closed my eyes. When I opened them, she was gone. I stood there against that tree, gasping, my heart trying to break through my ribcage. Gone. She was gone, just like the shape in the tree, just like everything else on this mountain that made no sense. The wind had died down. I noticed it suddenly. That constant howl had faded to nothing. The snow was still falling, but lighter now. Gentler. And the temperature, according to my thermometer, it was still -8, but I didn't feel as cold. Shouldn't I be feeling colder after 5 hours in these conditions? "Ethan?" Jace's voice on the radio. "You still there?" "Yeah, she's gone." "Who's gone? You've been alone this whole time." "The woman. She was right in front of me." "There's no woman, Ethan. You're alone in the clearing. You're just standing there talking to yourself." To myself, or to him, or to no one at all. I looked at my GPS again. The spiral had gotten tighter. The track log showed me standing in one spot for the last several minutes, but I knew I'd been moving, backing away from that woman. The device was lying, or I was, one or the other. "Jace, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Okay? Do you remember dying?" Silence, long enough that I thought the radio had cut out again. Then, yes. The word hit me like a physical blow. When? When I fell. I remember hitting the rocks, something in my neck. Snapped. I heard it, felt it. Everything went white, and then I was here, watching you, waiting for you to help me. How long ago was that? More silence. Then, Ethan, I don't think I fell today. I don't think it was this January. What do you mean? My watch. It stopped at 12:23 p.m. But the date says January 19th, 2 years ago. Ethan, I think I've been out here for 2 years. I looked at my watch. 1:03 a.m. January 19th. Same date. Different year? No. That was impossible. I'd gotten the call tonight. Marcus had called about his missing friend. This was happening now in real time, not 2 years ago. Jace, that's not... Check your GPS. Check the date on your GPS. I didn't want to. Some part of me knew what I'd see, but I checked anyway. The date field was glitching. Flickering between 2024 and 2026. January 19th, both times. Same day, different years. I don't understand, I said. But that was a lie. I was starting to understand. Starting to see the pattern. This mountain collected people, not their bodies, their echoes. Their last moments played out over and over, trapped in a loop that repeated every 2 years. January 19th, the same night, the same storm. Different people experiencing the same impossible night, never meeting, always alone. Except we weren't alone. We could hear each other. We could communicate across the gap between iterations. And if that was true, then how many of us are there? I asked. What? How many people are trapped here? How many iterations of this night? I don't know, but Ethan, when I said I've been watching you for hours, that wasn't true. I've been watching you for 2 years. You appear in the clearing every January 19th at 7:30 p.m. You walk to the same spot. You hear the same voice. You follow the same pattern. Every time. And every time, you never find me. You never make it out. My blood went cold. Colder than the -8 degrees surrounding me. That's not possible. This is my first time up here. I got the call tonight. This is... Do you remember yesterday? Do you remember January 18th? I tried to remember what I'd been doing the day before, what I'd eaten for breakfast, what cases I'd been working. Nothing came. My memory of the past few days was fuzzy, indistinct, like trying to remember a dream. But I remembered the call clearly, remembered Marcus's voice, remembered driving up here, gearing up, starting the search. All of it was crystal clear, because it was the only thing that had happened, the only real memory I had. No, I whispered, this isn't real. I'm not stuck here. I'm not... You are. We all are. Everyone who comes up here on January 19th, everyone who tries to help, we get caught in the loop. We become part of the pattern. Then how do I get out? I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. But you said you've been here for 2 years. You must have... Ethan, I can't move. I fell, and I died. And now I'm stuck watching you make the same mistakes I made. Watching you talk to the things that pretend to be people. Watching you walk in circles. I can't get out because I never started. I've been dead the whole time. Then what am I? If this is a loop, if I'm repeating the same night over and over, am I... I couldn't finish the question. Couldn't voice what I was thinking. I don't know, Jace said softly. Maybe you're still alive out there somewhere. Maybe your body is in the ranger station, and this is just your mind, trapped in the loop. Or maybe you died the first time you came up here and you just don't remember. Maybe we're all dead. Maybe that's what this place is. I slumped against a tree, my legs suddenly weak. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. But what was real anymore? The footprints that led in circles, the voice that moved with me, the woman with too many teeth, my GPS that showed me traveling 15 miles in 5 hours, moving in a spiral toward a point I'd been standing at the whole time. What do the things want? I asked. The shapes, the people who aren't people, what are they? I think they're the mountain. Or maybe they're what happens when you stay too long. When you become part of the pattern instead of just passing through. They're trying to help in their own way, trying to warn you. Did you see the footprints? Yes. Did they say anything? I remembered. Turn back. Right. They tell everyone the same thing. Turn back, get out while you still can, before you end up like me, like all of us. How many of us are there? I don't know. I've counted at least 7 different people over the 2 years I've been watching. Some of them come back every iteration. Some only appear once and then they're gone. I don't know what that means. I don't know if they escaped or if they just ended. 7 people. 7 souls trapped in this loop. Repeating the same night over and over, never finding what they're looking for, never getting out. But if the footprints could warn me, if they knew to tell me to turn back, that meant someone had figured something out. Someone had learned the rules. The woman, I said. The one I just saw, she was trying to help too, wasn't she? I don't know, I can't see her, I can only see you. She smiled at me, right before she disappeared. It wasn't a human smile, but it wasn't threatening, it was knowing. Like she understood something I didn't. Maybe she did. Maybe she figured out how to get out. I pushed off from the tree, started walking. Not toward anything in particular, just moving because standing still felt like giving up. Where are you going? Jace asked. I don't know. Away, somewhere. I can't just stand here. You're still in the clearing, Ethan. You haven't moved. But I had. I was walking. 1 foot in front of the other. I could feel my legs moving, feel the snow crunching under my boots. I was definitely moving. Unless I wasn't. Unless this was all happening in my head, some dying dream as I lay frozen somewhere on this mountain. Unless... I stopped, looked down at the snow in front of me. More footprints. My footprints. But these were different. They didn't form a circle or spell out words. They just walked in a straight line, disappearing into the darkness ahead. I followed them. Ethan, what are you doing? Following my footprints, they lead somewhere. They lead in a circle. They always lead in a circle. Not these ones. I kept walking, my headlamp following the trail through the snow. The prints were fresh, couldn't be more than a few minutes old. They led through the trees, down a gentle slope, toward a clearing. I stopped at the edge of it. The clearing was maybe 50 feet across, ringed by tall pines heavy with snow, and in the center, standing perfectly still with his headlamp on, was a figure. Me. I was looking at myself. Same jacket, same gear, same face. I couldn't see from this distance, but I knew. It was me, standing in the center of that clearing, exactly as Jace had described. And as I watched, the other me turned slowly, scanning the tree line with his headlamp. The beam passed right over where I was standing, right over me, and kept going, like I wasn't there, like I was the ghost. Jace, I said into the radio. I found the clearing. I found me. What? I'm looking at myself. I'm standing in the clearing just like you said. That's not possible. You can't, but it was possible. Because I was doing it. I was standing at the edge of the clearing, watching myself stand in the center of it. 2 versions of the same person, occupying the same moment from different perspectives. The loop was breaking, or splitting, or I was finally seeing it for what it really was. Not a linear repetition, but a fractal, branching and dividing, each iteration creating new echoes, new versions, all of them trapped in the same moment, reaching out across the gaps, trying to warn each other. Turn back. The footprints hadn't been mine from the past. They'd been mine from the future, or from another branch of the loop, another version of me that had walked this path before, that had figured out enough to leave a warning. And the woman with too many teeth? Maybe she was someone who'd been here longer. Someone who'd looped so many times that she'd started to become something else. Something that understood the pattern better than we did. Something that was trying to show me the way out by showing me where I was, caught between versions, neither fully in one moment or another. I had to choose. I had to pick which version was real. The me in the clearing, standing still, trapped in the loop, or the me at the edge, moving, aware, seeing the pattern. I stepped into the clearing. The other me didn't react, didn't see me, just kept scanning with his headlamp, looking for something he'd never find. I walked toward him, toward myself. Each step felt like wading through deep water, like reality was resisting, trying to keep us separate. But I pushed through. I had to, because I understood now. The only way out was to become whole again, to merge the different versions, the different perspectives, into one cohesive reality. I reached him, reached myself, lifted my hand and placed it on his shoulder. Everything went white. I was falling. That was my first coherent thought as reality reassembled itself around me. Falling through white, through cold, through a space that had no dimensions but felt infinite. I could see fractures spreading through the whiteness, cracks in the loop, showing glimpses of other moments, other iterations. I saw myself getting the call from Marcus, saw myself gearing up, saw myself driving to the trailhead. Over and over, infinite variations on the same theme. In one version, Sarah came with me. In another, I turned back at the parking lot. In a third, I never got the call at all. But in all of them, the mountain waited. The storm came. January 19th repeated itself like a broken record, skipping and stuttering, never quite making it to the next day. I hit something solid. Not the ground. The sensation was different. Like I'd fallen through water and hit the bottom, except the bottom was made of moments instead of earth. I could feel all the different versions of the night pressing in around me, trying to pull me back into their individual loops. I opened my eyes. I was standing in the clearing, the real clearing, or maybe the original clearing, or maybe there was no difference anymore. It was dawn. That was the first thing I noticed. Pale, gray light filtering through the trees, turning the snow from white to silver. The storm had passed. The wind had died. Everything was still and quiet, and utterly, perfectly calm. I checked my watch, 6:47 a.m., January 20th. I'd made it. I'd broken through. I was out. My radio crackled. Cross? Ethan Kincross, do you copy? Dispatch. Real dispatch. I could hear it in the voice. No echo, no delay, no wrongness. Just a person on the other end, worried, looking for me. This is Kincross. I copy. Jesus, Ethan, we've been trying to reach you all night. Your GPS went dark around midnight. We've had teams mobilizing. What's your status? I'm fine. I'm okay. Did you find him? Did you find Jace Whitmore? A pause. Who? Jace Whitmore, the missing snowboarder. The reason I came up here. Another pause, longer this time. Ethan, we didn't send you up for a missing snowboarder. You called in saying you wanted to do a night patrol. Check some of the backcountry areas before the storm hit. You've been up there since 7:30 last night. I felt cold that had nothing to do with the temperature. That's not... No. Marcus called. His friend Jace was missing. you dispatched me. Ethan, there's no Marcus, no Jace Whitmore, no missing persons report. You went up there on your own initiative. I closed my eyes, tried to remember, tried to separate what was real from what the loop had made me believe. But it was all jumbled together, different versions of events overlapping, contradicting each other. I swallowed hard. Dispatch, how many rangers have we lost on this mountain? Lost? What do you mean? Gone missing, disappeared. On January 19th specifically. I heard typing, someone checking records. Then, we've had 3 rangers go missing in the past 10 years. All during winter patrols, all on January 19th. But Ethan, those were different years. 2015, 2018, and 2021. Different years. Same date, same pattern. What were their names? More typing. Thomas Garrett, 2015. Michelle Reeves, 2018. And David Sullivan, 2021. I didn't recognize the names, but I knew them anyway. Knew them like I knew my own name, because I'd been them. Or they'd been me. Or we'd all been trapped in the same loop, experiencing it from different angles, different iterations, calling out to each other across the gaps. Were they ever found? No. All 3 are still classified as missing. We've done extensive searches every year on the anniversary, but... She trailed off. But you never find anything. No, it's like they just vanished. Because they did vanish. Into the loop. Into the pattern. Became part of the mountain's collection of moments that repeat themselves, echo themselves, trap themselves. But I'd gotten out. Somehow, I'd broken the cycle. I'm coming down, I said. Initiating descent now. Copy that. We'll have a team at the trailhead. And Ethan, we're going to need a full debrief when you get back. Understood. I clicked off the radio and started walking. My GPS showed a clear path down, the coordinates stable and reliable. My footprints from the night before were there, leading back the way I'd come. Real footprints this time. No circles, no spirals, just a linear trail showing where I'd been. As I walked, I thought about Jace, about the voice on the radio that had talked to me for hours. Was he real? Had there really been a snowboarder 2 years ago who'd fallen and died and gotten trapped? Or was he just another echo, another fragment of the pattern trying to manifest? I'd never know, and maybe that was okay. Maybe some mysteries weren't meant to be solved. I was halfway down the mountain when I saw them. Ski tracks. Fresh ones, cutting across the slope below me. And following them, a figure in bright blue snow gear carving elegant turns through the powder. I stopped, watched. The skier hit a small jump, caught air, landed perfectly. Young, male, having the time of his life. He must have sensed me watching because he stopped, looked up, waved, called out something I couldn't quite hear. Probably just a friendly greeting. 2 people enjoying the backcountry on a beautiful morning after a storm. I waved back. He turned to continue his run, and that's when I saw it. On the back of his jacket, written in reflective tape that caught the pale sunlight. Whittemore. My blood froze. I blinked, looked again. The name was gone. Just a plain blue jacket, no writing, no identification. The skier carved another turn and disappeared into the trees below. I stood there for a long moment, breathing hard, trying to decide if I'd really seen it, or if I'd just imagined it. If the loop was still trying to pull me back in, still trying to make me believe. Or if Jace had made it out too. If we'd both broken free and now he was here. Alive. In a version of reality where he'd never fallen, never died, never got trapped. Where January 19th was just another day, and not an infinite prison. I wanted to follow him, to chase after and see, to know for certain. But I didn't, because some part of me understood that it didn't matter. Real or not, echo or solid, Jace was out there skiing, and that was enough. I continued my descent. The ranger station came into view around 8:30. True to their word, there was a team waiting, Sarah, looking worried and tired, and 2 other rangers I recognized. They rushed out to meet me as I reached the parking lot. "Ethan, thank God. Are you okay? What happened up there?" I wanted to tell them, wanted to explain about the loop, the voices, the versions of myself, all of it. But looking at their concerned faces, I knew they wouldn't believe me, wouldn't understand. How could they? They hadn't been there, hadn't experienced it. "Got turned around in the storm," I said. "Radio crapped out, GPS went wonky. You know how it is in whiteout conditions." Sarah frowned. "That's it? You were up there for 11 hours and you just got lost?" "Yeah, stupid, I know. Won't happen again." She didn't look convinced, but she let it go. They all did. What else were they going to do? I was back. I was safe. That was what mattered. They took me inside, got me warm food and hot coffee, started filling out incident reports, standard procedure. I went through the motions, answered their questions, told them what they needed to hear. And all the while, I kept thinking about those names. Thomas Garrett, Michelle Reeves, David Sullivan. Had they made it out too? Were they somewhere out there living their lives, trying to process what they'd experienced? Or were they still up there, trapped in their own version of January 19th, waiting for someone to break through and pull them out? I didn't know. But I made myself a promise right there. I would never work on January 19th again. Whatever dispatch needed, whatever emergencies came up, I would find someone else to handle it. Because I'd seen what that day was, what it could become. And I was terrified that if I went back up there on that date, I might not make it out a second time. The debrief took another 2 hours. By the time they let me go, it was nearly noon. I drove home in a daze, my mind still processing, still trying to separate reality from echo, memory from experience. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it. Coffee cup in the sink, bills on the counter, everything normal, everything real. I collapsed on my couch and closed my eyes, finally allowing myself to relax. That's when I heard it. Faint, so faint I almost missed it. Coming from somewhere in my apartment. "Help!" My eyes snapped open. I sat up, heart pounding. The voice was coming from my bedroom. I stood slowly, moved toward the door, every instinct screaming at me to stop, to turn around, to run. I opened the door. My bedroom was empty, bed made. Windows showing the afternoon sun, nothing unusual, nothing wrong. Except on my dresser, my radio, the one I'd brought back from the mountain, the one that had gone dead during the night, was on, and from its speaker barely audible. "Help. Please. Is anyone there?" Not Jace's voice. Not mine, someone else. Another person trapped in the loop, calling out, hoping for an answer. I walked to the radio, picked it up, held it in my hands and felt the weight of it, the reality of it. This wasn't an echo. This wasn't a memory. This was happening right now. Someone was still up there, still trapped, still calling for help. I looked out my window at the mountains in the distance. Beautiful, serene, deadly. And somewhere up there on some version of January 19th that existed parallel to this moment, someone was lost. Someone was scared. Someone needed help. What would you do? Would you go back? Would you risk getting trapped again to save someone who might not even be real? I stood there for a long time, holding that radio, listening to that voice calling out from somewhere between moments. And I realized something. I couldn't just leave them there. Couldn't just ignore it. Because if there was even a chance, even the smallest possibility that someone was really trapped, really suffering, really calling for help, I had to try. I set the radio down, started gathering my gear again. Same pack, same equipment, same determination that had driven me up that mountain in the first place. Sarah called while I was loading my truck. "Ethan, where are you going?" "Back up." "What? No. You just got back. You need rest." "Someone's still up there." "Who?" "We didn't get any." "I know. But they're there. I can hear them." Silence on the other end. Then, "Ethan, are you okay? Really okay? Because if you need to talk to someone, get checked out, I'm fine. I have to do this." Okay, but not alone. If you're going back up, I'm coming with you." "Sarah, no. This is something I have to—" "Not alone, Ethan. That's final. Give me 20 minutes to gear up." She hung up before I could argue. And maybe that was better. Maybe having someone else there, someone anchored in this reality, this version of events, would keep me from slipping back into the loop. Or maybe I was about to pull her into it with me. 20 minutes later, Sarah pulled up in her truck. She looked tired but determined. "Ready?" "Are you sure about this?" "No. But when has that ever stopped us?" She had a point. We drove up to the trailhead together, the afternoon sun already starting to dip toward the horizon. By the time we parked and geared up, it was after 4. We'd have maybe an hour of daylight, maybe less. "Where are we going?" Sarah asked. I pulled out my GPS, looked at the coordinates. They were the same ones from last night. The last known position. The center of the loop. Northeast face, 11,200 feet. That's where you were last night. Yeah. And you want to go back there because... Because I heard a voice. Because someone's trapped. Because the mountain collects people and I might be the only one who knows it. Because I have a feeling, I said instead. Sarah looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Okay, let's go get your feeling." We started climbing. The mountain was different in daylight. The storm had passed completely, leaving behind perfect blue skies and pristine snow. Everything looked peaceful, normal, like nothing had ever been wrong. But I could feel it. That pull, that sense that reality here was thinner, more malleable. That if I listened close enough, I'd hear the echoes of all those other January 19ths, overlapping and intersecting, creating a web of moments that all existed simultaneously. We reached the 11,200-foot mark around 5:30. The sun was getting low, shadows stretching long across the snow. "This is it," I said. Sarah looked around. "This is what? There's nothing here." "I know, but this is where they are, where they're calling from." "They?" I pulled out my radio, the one from this morning, turned it on. Static for a moment, then, "Help, is anyone there? Please." Sarah's eyes went wide. "Who is that?" "Someone who needs us to find them." We stood there in that spot, listening to that voice call out from somewhere we couldn't see, and I realized something. Maybe I hadn't escaped the loop. Maybe the loop had just expanded. Maybe now I was part of the pattern in a different way, not trapped in it, but able to move between iterations, able to hear the voices and help guide people out. Or maybe I was just losing my mind. Maybe the cold and the fear and the trauma of last night had broken something in me, and now I was hearing things that weren't there, seeing patterns in random noise. But looking at Sarah's face, at the concern and belief I saw there, I knew it didn't matter. Real or not, those voices needed someone to answer. And if it meant coming back up here every January 19th, listening for those calls, pulling people out of their own personal loops, then that's what I'd do. "Talk to them," Sarah said quietly. "Answer them." I lifted the radio to my mouth, keyed the transmit button, and across the gap between moments, between realities, between versions of the same impossible night, I said, "This is Ranger Ethan Kincross. I can hear you. Tell me where you are. I'm coming to get you." The response came immediately, filled with relief and desperation and hope. "I'm here. I'm right here. I've been waiting so long. Please hurry. The storm's getting worse, and there's something in the trees, something watching me, something that knows my name." I looked at Sarah. She looked at me. And together, without another word, we started our search. Behind us, carved into a tree we'd just passed, fresh cuts in the bark that neither of us had noticed. Turn back. But we didn't turn back. We never do. That's the curse of being a ranger. When someone calls for help, you answer. No matter what. No matter where. No matter when. Even if it means walking back into the loop. Even if it means risking getting trapped again. Even if it means facing whatever lives in those spaces between moments. Those collected echoes that the mountain keeps like trophies. You answer the call. Because that's what we do. That's who we are. And somewhere out there, on infinite versions of January 19th, other rangers are doing the same thing. Answering the same calls. Following the same voices. Walking into the same storm. All of us hoping we'll make it back out. Most of us knowing we won't. The thing about night shifts in the backcountry is that darkness changes everything. Places you know by heart in daylight become alien landscapes when the sun goes down. Familiar trails turn into mazes. Safe clearings become exposed killing fields when the wind picks up. And the cabins, those emergency shelters scattered throughout the mountains, they stop feeling like refuges and start feeling like tombs. I'm Marla Dorsey, and I've been a backcountry ranger in the Colorado Rockies for 8 years. Long enough to know better than to trust anything you see after dark. Long enough to have developed instincts that have saved my life more times than I can count. But that February night, those instincts were screaming at me to turn around and run, and I ignored them. I've regretted that decision every day since. It started with a routine patrol. My partner Holly Carver and I were doing our weekly night check of the emergency shelters along the Northeast Ridge. Standard procedure. Make sure the doors aren't blocked by snow, check that the emergency supplies are stocked, verify the propane heaters are functional. Boring work, but necessary. People die up here when they can't find shelter, and we take that responsibility seriously. The weather was clear when we started. Cold as hell, maybe 10 degrees, but clear. Full moon, bright enough to cast shadows. We'd already checked 3 cabins without incident. Everything by the book. Everything normal. Then we rounded the bend toward cabin 4, and Holly grabbed my arm. "You see that?" I followed her gaze. There, maybe 300 yards ahead, sitting in the small clearing where cabin 4 stood, was a light. Warm. Steady, unmistakable. Someone had lit the lantern inside. "Could be a hiker," I said. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew something was off. The season was wrong. Most recreational hikers avoided the backcountry in February. The weather was too unpredictable, the avalanche risk too high. And anyone experienced enough to be up here would know better than to light the lantern before securing the cabin, checking for carbon monoxide buildup, making sure the space was safe. Holly pulled out her radio. "Dispatch, this is Ranger Carver. We've got activity at cabin 4, possible occupied shelter. Requesting information on any permits or registered hikers in the area." Static crackled back. Then, "Copy that, Carver. Stand by." We waited there in the snow, our headlamps off to preserve our night vision, watching that steady glow from the cabin window. The light didn't flicker, didn't move. Just sat there, warm and inviting and wrong. Dispatch to Carver. We have no registered permits for that area, no active rescues or authorized personnel. You're the only ones who should be up there. Holly and I exchanged looks. Copy that, dispatch. We're going to investigate. We'll report back. Be careful. We approached slowly, our boots crunching in the snow. The sound seemed impossibly loud in the stillness. The moon was bright enough that we could see our breath pluming in the frigid air, see the undisturbed snow around the cabin. No footprints, no ski tracks, no sign that anyone had approached recently, but that light was definitely coming from inside. "Marla?" Holly whispered. "Look at the door." I did. The door was closed. Not just closed, sealed. Snow had drifted against it, piling up maybe 6 inches high. Nobody had gone in or out of that cabin in at least 24 hours, maybe longer. So how was the lantern lit? "Could be malfunction," I said, not believing it. "Timer got stuck or something." "Those lanterns don't have timers. They're manual. You have to physically light them." I knew that. Of course, I knew that. I was just saying something, anything, to fill the silence, to push back against the wrongness that was settling over this whole situation like a blanket. We reached the door. Holly was right about the snowdrift. Nobody had been through here, nobody human, anyway. I reached for the handle, my gloved hand shaking slightly. Not from cold, from something else. Something primal that didn't have a name but knew danger when it felt it. "Wait." Holly grabbed my wrist. "Protocol says we call it in first. Get backup." "For what? A mysterious light? By the time backup gets here, it'll be dawn. And if someone is in there, if they need help, we can't wait." Holly hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, but I'm going in first. You stay behind me." Before I could argue, she'd drawn her knife. We didn't carry guns, just blades and radios and whatever wits we had left, and pushed against the door. It didn't budge. The snowdrift was holding it shut. We kicked away the snow, working quickly, our breath coming in short gasps. Finally, the door swung inward with a groan of cold hinges. Warmth rushed out. Not a little warmth, a wave of it, like opening an oven. In 10-degree weather, it felt like a gift from God. But it didn't smell right. The air coming from the cabin was stale, thick, like something that had been sealed up for too long, and it smelled like copper, like blood. Holly stepped inside first, her headlamp sweeping the interior. I followed, my hand on my own knife, my heart hammering against my ribs. The cabin was empty. One room, maybe 15 feet square, small wood stove in the corner, bunk beds against the wall, table and 2 chairs, emergency supplies and plastic bins, and on the table, burning bright and steady, a kerosene lantern. Nobody there. Nobody at all. "Check the bunks," Holly said quietly. I moved to the beds, my headlamp illuminating the spaces underneath. Nothing, no gear, no sleeping bags, no sign that anyone had been here recently except for that damn lantern burning on the table. Holly was examining the emergency supply bins. "Marla, come look at this." I joined her. She'd opened the logbook, every cabin had one, where hikers were supposed to sign in and out, leave information about their route, their expected return time. Standard backcountry protocol. The last entry was dated today, February 14th. Just a few hours ago, according to the timestamp. But here's what made my blood run cold. There were 2 entries for the same person. Same handwriting. Same name. Sarah Mitchell. Same date. Same time, down to the minute. But one was a check-in, the other was a check-out. "That's not possible," Holly said. You can't check in and check out at the exact same time? I leaned closer, examining the writing. It was definitely the same hand, same slant, same pressure, same loops in the letters. But the checkout entry looked wrong. The ink was darker, like someone had gone over it multiple times. And the words were slightly shaky, like the person writing had been scared, or hypothermic, or something worse. The checkout message read, "Left at 3:47 p.m., going down via Northeast Trail, weather turning. Need to move fast. If you find this and I'm not out, I'm sorry. I had to leave. I couldn't stay here anymore, not with..." The entry ended there, mid-sentence, like something had interrupted them. Holly checked her watch. It's 9:15 now. If she left at 3:47, she should have been down hours ago, even hiking in the dark. Unless she got lost or injured. Or unless this is bullshit. Holly's voice was tight. Someone's screwing with us, has to be. This doesn't make sense. But it did make sense in a horrible way. Because I'd seen that lamp burning in the window. I'd felt that unnatural warmth coming from the cabin. I'd smelled that copper scent that still hung in the air, metallic and wrong. And now, standing in this empty shelter with its impossible logbook entries, I was starting to understand that something very bad had happened here. Something that didn't follow the normal rules. "We need to search for her," I said. "Sarah Mitchell, if she's out there, if she's lost, in the dark? Marla, we don't even know if she's real. This could be a prank. College kids come up here all the time, try to spook the rangers. Then where are they? Where's Sarah? Where's anyone?" Holly didn't have an answer for that. I pulled out my radio. "Dispatch, this is Dorsey. We need information on a Sarah Mitchell. Possibly hiking in the Northeast Ridge area. Possibly in distress. Static. Then, copy. Stand by for records check." While we waited, I examined the cabin more closely. Everything seemed normal at first glance. But then I noticed small details that didn't add up. The wood stove was cold. No fire had been lit in it today, maybe not for days. But the cabin was warm, not just warm from the lantern. That wouldn't account for it. The whole space felt heated, like the walls themselves were radiating warmth. I pressed my hand against the log wall. It was hot, too hot. Hot enough that I pulled my hand back quickly. "Holly, touch the wall." She did, then jerked back. "What the hell? That can't be from the lantern." "It's not. Something's wrong here. Really wrong." The radio crackled. "Dorsey, we have no record of a Sarah Mitchell with any hiking permits in your area. No Sarah Mitchell in our system at all for the past 6 months. Are you sure about that name?" I looked at the logbook again. The name was clear. Sarah Mitchell, written twice, in that shaky, scared handwriting. "Positive on the name, dispatch. It's right here in the logbook." "Copy. We're expanding the search in our database. Stand by." Holly was at the window now, looking out into the darkness. "Marla, come here." I joined her. At first, I didn't see what she was looking at. Just the clearing, the moonlit snow, the dark line of trees beyond. Then I saw it. Footprints, leading away from the cabin. Fresh ones, cutting through the snow that we'd walked through just minutes ago. Footprints that hadn't been there when we arrived. "That's impossible," Holly whispered. "We would have seen those. We were watching the whole time. But there they were. A single set of tracks, leading from the cabin door. The same door we'd had to dig out of a snowdrift, heading northeast into the trees. Small prints. Women's boots, maybe size 7 or 8. Sarah Mitchell's prints had to be. But how? How had she gotten out without us seeing? Without leaving tracks until now? "We have to follow them," I said. "No way. This is wrong, Marla. Everything about this is wrong. We need to call it in, get more rangers up here, wait for dawn." She could be dying out there, hypothermic, injured. We can't wait. Holly stared at me for a long moment. Then she pulled out her radio. Dispatch, we have a situation. We're seeing evidence of recent activity, fresh tracks leading northeast from cabin 4. We're going to pursue and investigate. Please log our position and maintain radio contact. Negative, Carver. Protocol says you wait for backup in uncertain situations. What's your threat assessment? Holly and I looked at each other. What was the threat? An impossible lantern, a logbook with duplicate entries, footprints that appeared out of nowhere. How do you put that in a report? Unknown threat, Holly finally said. But possible hiker in distress we're pursuing. Copy that. Maintain radio contact every 10 minutes. If we lose contact, we're sending backup. Understood. We stepped outside, back into the cold. After the unnatural warmth of the cabin, the February air felt like knives against my skin. My breath came out in great plumes, visible in the moonlight. The footprints were still there, clear, fresh, leading into the trees. Stay close, Holly said. And if anything seems off, we abort. Got it? I nodded. We followed the tracks. The first thing I noticed was that the prints were too perfect. In real snow, real conditions, footprints compress the snow unevenly. There are edge effects, displaced powder, the way weight shifts from heel to toe. These prints looked stamped, like someone had pressed a boot-shaped die into the snow over and over, each impression identical to the last. I didn't mention it to Holly. She was already spooked enough, and I was trying to convince myself there was a rational explanation. Maybe it was just the moon playing tricks with shadows. Maybe the cold was affecting my perception. Maybe I was seeing patterns that weren't there. Maybe, but I didn't believe it. The tracks led us into the tree line, weaving between massive Douglas firs and lodgepole pines. The canopy cut off most of the moonlight here, forcing us to use our headlamps. The beams cut through the darkness in narrow cones, illuminating small circles of reality while everything outside them remained black and unknowable. Marla, Holly said after maybe 5 minutes of hiking, the tracks. I looked down. The footprints were changing, not in size or shape. They were still those same perfect, stamped impressions. But they were getting closer together. The stride was shortening. Like whoever was making them was slowing down, or getting tired, or something else. She might be hypothermic, I said. Fatigue setting in. We need to move faster. We picked up our pace, following the tracks through the trees. The forest was dead silent. No wind, no animal sounds, no distant creaking of ice-laden branches. Just our breathing and our footsteps and the occasional crackle of our radios checking in with dispatch. 10 minutes in, the tracks stopped. Not gradually. Not with any sign of the person turning around or sitting down or doing anything normal. They just stopped. One footprint, then nothing. Just virgin snow beyond, smooth and undisturbed in every direction. Holly and I stood there, our headlamps sweeping the area, trying to understand what we were seeing. Where did she go? Holly's voice was tight. I don't know. People don't just vanish, Marla. She has to be somewhere. I looked up. The trees around us were too tall to climb easily, and there were no low branches that could have been used as handholds. I looked back the way we'd come, trying to see if there was a spot where the tracks could have been covered by falling snow, but the night was still and clear. Nothing was falling. The tracks just stopped. Dispatch, this is Dorsey. I keyed my radio, trying to keep my voice steady. We've lost the trail. Tracks terminate at our current position with no explanation. Request guidance. Static. Then, copy that, Dorsey. Can you see any evidence of struggle? Any blood or torn clothing? Negative, nothing. It's like she just stopped existing. A pause. Dorsey, what's your current position? I checked my GPS, read off the coordinates. Another pause, longer this time. Dorsey, according to our maps, those coordinates put you inside cabin 4. I felt my blood turn to ice. Negative dispatch, we're in the woods, approximately quarter-mile northeast of the cabin. Checking, Dorsey, I'm showing your GPS signal stationary at cabin 4. Has been since you called in the initial sighting. Holly was staring at her own GPS now, her face pale in the glow of the screen. Marla, mine says the same thing. We're at the cabin, we never left. That's not possible. We walked, we followed the tracks. Then why do both our GPS units say we're still at cabin 4? I didn't have an answer. I looked back the way we'd come, trying to see the cabin, trying to orient myself. The trees were thick here, but not so thick that we shouldn't be able to see something. A light, a clearing, any landmark. But there was nothing. Just trees in every direction, uniform and endless. We need to go back, Holly said. Right now. This is wrong. All of this is wrong. I wanted to argue. Wanted to keep looking for Sarah Mitchell, whoever she was, but Holly was right. We were in over our heads. Whatever was happening here, it was beyond our training, beyond our equipment, beyond our understanding. Okay, I said, we head back, but we mark our trail, tie flagging tape every 50 feet so we can track our route. Holly nodded, already pulling the bright orange tape from her pack. We started back, Holly marking trees as we went. The tracks we'd followed in were still there. Still perfect, still wrong. We followed them backward, retracing our steps. 5 minutes of hiking, then 10, then 15. We should have reached the cabin by now, should have broken out of the tree line into the clearing, but the trees just kept going, dense and dark and unchanging. We're lost, Holly said, flatly. We followed the tracks back and we're still lost. We can't be lost. We've been moving in a straight line. The cabin is right. I stopped, because ahead of us, visible in the beam of my headlamp, was a splash of orange. Flagging tape. The same tape Holly had been tying to trees. Except we'd only been walking for 15 minutes, and Holly had started tying tape when we decided to head back. There was no way we'd looped around to our own trail already, unless we had. Unless somehow, impossibly, we'd been walking in a circle without realizing it. That's not ours, Holly said. But her voice lacked conviction. She walked up to the tape, examined it. Okay, it is ours. That's my knot, but how? We've been walking straight. I pulled out my compass. The needle spun lazily, refusing to settle. North was everywhere and nowhere. The magnetic field here was wrong, distorted, useless. Something's interfering with our navigation, I said. The GPS, the compass, maybe even our sense of direction. That doesn't explain the tracks, or the logbook, or the temperature in the cabin. Marla, what the hell is going on? Before I could answer, my radio crackled. But it wasn't dispatch. It was something else. A voice I didn't recognize. Female, young, scared. Hello? Is someone there? I can see your lights. Please help me. I'm so cold. Holly and I froze. Sarah, I said into the radio. Sarah Mitchell? Yes, that's me. I got lost. I can't find my way back. I've been walking for hours. Please, I can see your lights. Why aren't you coming to get me? We're trying. Where are you? What do you see around you? Trees, just trees. And snow. And your lights. I've been following your lights for so long. Why do you keep moving away from me? I looked at Holly. Her face had gone white. We're not moving, I said into the radio. We're standing still. Can you describe what you see more clearly? I see 2 lights, headlamps, moving through the trees. I follow them, but I can't catch up. You're always just ahead of me, just out of reach. Please stop moving. Please wait for me. But we weren't moving. We were standing perfectly still, our boots planted in the snow, not moving an inch. And yet Sarah was describing us as if we were hiking away from her. "Sarah, can you see the cabin, cabin 4? It should be in a clearing not far from where you are." I see the cabin. That's where I'm trying to go, but every time I get close, it moves. It's always in the distance, always just ahead. I've been walking toward it for hours. Hours. But according to the logbook, she'd only left the cabin at 3:47 p.m. It was now 9:43. She'd been walking for 6 hours, trying to reach a cabin she'd just left. "Sarah, listen to me very carefully. I need you to stop walking. Just stop. Stand still and wait for us to reach you." I can't stop. If I stop, it gets colder. And there's something else out here. Something that's not you. Something that watches when I stop moving. My heart kicked into overdrive. "What do you mean? What's watching you?" "I don't know. I never see it directly. But sometimes when I look back, there are extra footprints. Not mine, not yours. Bigger, and they're getting closer." Holly and I both turned, shining our headlamps back the way we'd come. Our own tracks were there, and Sarah's smaller prints. But Holly saw it first, grabbed my arm and pointed. There. Alongside our trail, parallel to it but not intersecting, larger prints, much larger. Barefoot impressions in the snow, each one showing 5 distinct toe marks and a heel. Human-shaped, but wrong. The toes were too long, too spread, and the prints were deep, like whatever made them weighed far more than a person should. And they were fresh, fresher than ours, like they'd been made just seconds ago, following us without us noticing. "Dispatch," Holly said into her radio, her voice shaking. "Dispatch, do you copy?" Static. "Dispatch, this is Carver. Emergency. We need immediate extraction. Do you copy?" More static. Then breaking through. Signal. Aching up. GPS. Osing you?" The signal was dying. We were being cut off, isolated. Whatever was happening out here, it didn't want us talking to the outside world. "Sarah," I said into my radio. "Sarah, are you still there?" "I'm here. I'm so cold. Why won't you help me?" "We're trying. Just keep talking to us. Tell us what you see." "I see your lights. I see the cabin. I see... Oh God. Oh God, it's right behind me. I can hear it breathing." "What is, Sarah? What's behind you?" "I don't know. I don't want to look. If I look, it'll know I can see it. Please, hurry, please." The radio cut to static. Then silence. Then, faintly, breaking through, it touched me. "Sarah? Sarah?" Nothing. Dead air. The radio was gone. Holly and I stood there in the darkness, surrounded by trees, looking at those impossible footprints, those bare, inhuman tracks that had been following us without us knowing. And I realized that we were no longer the hunters. We were the prey. "We need to move," I said. "Now." "Move where? We're lost. Our GPS doesn't work. Our compass doesn't work. We don't even know which direction is out." She was right. We were trapped. Just like Sarah. Walking in circles, following lights and landmarks that kept receding, never getting closer. While something else walked behind us, patient and inevitable. But I had to try, had to do something. Follow the tracks, the big ones. If we follow them backward, they have to lead somewhere, to wherever it came from. Are you insane? We should be running away from those, not toward them. And go where? We're already lost. At least this gives us a direction. A purpose. Holly stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, Okay, you're right. We follow the tracks. But we stay together, no matter what. If one of us sees something, both of us see it. Deal? Deal. We started walking, following those large barefoot impressions backward through the snow. They wove between trees, sometimes crossing our own trail, sometimes diverging, but always present, always there. After maybe 10 minutes, Holly stopped. Marla, look. I did. The barefoot tracks, they weren't alone anymore. Now there were smaller prints alongside them. Children's prints. Dozens of them, all barefoot. All walking in the same direction we were back toward. Whatever source had made the larger tracks. And as we watched, more appeared, materializing out of nowhere, filling in the empty snow around us. Women's prints, men's prints, all sizes, all barefoot, all heading the same direction. We were following a procession, a parade of the lost walking backward through their own history, returning to the place where they'd been taken, the place where they'd stopped being people and started being something else. We should turn back, Holly whispered, but when we turned around, the way behind us was gone. Just a wall of trees, thick and impassable. The forest had closed behind us like a trap door, leaving only one direction to go. Forward, toward whatever waited at the end of this trail. The tracks led us deeper. That's the only way I can describe it. Not deeper into the forest, but deeper into something else. Some space that wasn't quite real, wasn't quite right. The trees looked the same but felt different. The air was still cold but had texture now, like it was thickening into something you could touch. And the silence, that absolute suffocating silence, had weight. Holly was muttering under her breath. Prayers, maybe, or just sounds to fill the quiet. I didn't ask. I was too focused on those footprints, that impossible parade of bare feet walking through snow that should have killed them in minutes. The prints kept multiplying. Some looked old, weathered, like they'd been made years ago and somehow preserved. Others looked fresh, still sharp-edged and clear, all of them heading the same direction. I checked my watch. 10:47 p.m. We'd been walking for over an hour since leaving cabin 4. Or maybe we'd been walking for minutes, or days. Time felt slippery here, unreliable. Marla, Holly's voice was barely a whisper. Do you smell that? I did. Wood smoke. Faint but unmistakable. And underneath it, something else. Something organic and wrong. Like meat left out too long in summer heat. Except this was February, and everything should be frozen. The smell got stronger as we walked. The trees started to thin, opening into a clearing ahead. I could see orange light flickering through the gaps, firelight. We stopped at the tree line, staying in the shadows. What I saw in that clearing made my skin crawl. It was another cabin. Not cabin 4. This one was older, bigger, rougher construction, the kind of structure that dated back 100 years, built by trappers or prospectors who'd worked these mountains long before they became protected wilderness. The kind of place that should have fallen to rot and snow decades ago. But it was standing, solid, real, and light spilled from its windows, warm and inviting. The barefoot tracks led right to its door. All of them. Hundreds of prints, converging on that single point like spokes on a wheel. And around the cabin, in the snow, were shapes. Piles of something covered in frost. I didn't want to look closer, didn't want to know what they were. But my headlamp beam swept across them anyway, and I saw. Boots. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. All types, hiking boots, snow boots, work boots, even a few pairs of sneakers, all empty, all arranged in neat rows, like someone had carefully removed them and placed them there to freeze. We need to leave, Holly said. Her voice was shaking. Right now. We need to... The cabin door opened. Light flooded out, silhouetting a figure in the doorway. Human-shaped. But the proportions were wrong. Too tall, arms too long, head tilted at an angle that made my brain hurt to look at. "Rangers," it said. The voice was human, male, middle-aged maybe, pleasant even, but it came from the wrong place, echoing from the trees around us instead of from the figure in the doorway. "I've been expecting you. Please, come in. It's cold out there." Holly had her knife out. I did too, though I knew it wouldn't help. You can't fight something that doesn't follow physical laws, something that exists in the gaps between normal reality. "Who are you?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "Who am I?" The voice seemed amused. "I'm everyone who got lost up here. Everyone who tried to make it through the cold and didn't. Everyone who gave up. I'm the mountain's memory, its collection. And you two, you've been here before, haven't you?" I hadn't. I was sure I hadn't. But even as I thought it, I felt uncertainty creeping in. There was something familiar about this place, something that plucked at old memories I couldn't quite reach. "We're leaving," Holly said firmly. "We're park rangers. People know where we are. They'll come looking." "Oh, they will. They always do. Just like you came looking. Just like everyone comes looking. That's how I grow. That's how I remember. Every ranger who comes up here to help becomes part of the pattern, part of the collection." The figure stepped forward into the light. I still couldn't make out details. It was like my eyes refused to focus on it properly. But I could see enough. See the way it moved, fluid and wrong. See the shadow it cast which didn't match its body. See the steam rising from it in the cold air, even though it wore no clothes. "Check your GPS," it said. "I want you to see." I didn't want to, but my hands moved on their own, pulling out the device. The screen glowed in the darkness, and there, right at the top, was my position. Cabin 4. Still Cabin 4. According to the GPS, I'd never left. I'd been standing in the same spot for the past hour, not moving. Holly was checking hers. No, this isn't right. We walked. We followed tracks. We're miles from... Are you?" The voice was closer now, though the figure hadn't moved. "Or have you been standing in Cabin 4 the whole time, staring at a lit lantern, losing yourselves in the warmth?" People do that sometimes. The cold gets into their heads, makes them see things, makes them wander in their minds while their bodies freeze. Is that what's happening to you? I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. When had they started shaking? And my toes? I couldn't feel my toes anymore. The cold was seeping in, deeper than it should be, deeper than my gear should allow. "You're doing this," I said. "You're making us see things, messing with our heads. Am I? Or am I showing you what's real? This cabin exists. Those boots exist. The people who wore them existed. All of it is real. The only question is, which reality are you in? The one where you're safe and warm in Cabin 4, slowly succumbing to carbon monoxide from a faulty heater, or the one where you're here with me, about to join my collection?" Holly grabbed my arm. "Don't listen. Don't listen to it. We know where we are. We know what we saw." But did we? I tried to remember. We'd entered Cabin 4, felt that unnatural warmth, seen the logbook with its duplicate entries. Then we'd followed footprints into the trees. But what if none of that had happened? What if we'd walked into that cabin, sat down to check the logbook and simply never gotten up? What if our bodies were still there, slumped over the table, while our minds wandered through this nightmare? "I see the doubt," the voice said. "Good. Doubt is the first step. Soon you'll forget which version is real. You'll try to go back, but back to where? To a cabin that might not exist? To a clearing you might have imagined? And eventually, you'll stop trying. You'll take off your boots because they're too heavy. You'll sit down because you're too tired, and you'll become part of the collection. Part of me. No, Holly said firmly. No, we're not doing that. We're leaving. Right now. Marla, we're leaving. She pulled on my arm, trying to get me to move, but my legs felt heavy. Why were my legs so heavy? And it was so cold now, so much colder than it had been. My core temperature was dropping. I could feel it happening. The shivering was getting worse. Marla! Holly slapped me, hard. The sting brought clarity. Stay with me, we're walking out. One foot in front of the other. Don't look at it. Don't listen to it, just walk. I nodded, forced my legs to move. We turned away from that cabin, from that figure in the doorway, and started walking back the way we'd come. The forest was different now. The trees were closer together, their branches interlocking overhead. I had to duck to avoid them, had to push through spaces that seemed too narrow. Holly was ahead of me, her headlamp beam cutting through the darkness, always just a few feet ahead. Holly, I called, wait up. I'm right here, she called back. But her voice was distant, farther than it should be. Holly, I'm here. Keep following my light. I tried, but that light kept receding, getting farther away even though I was running now, crashing through underbrush, my lungs burning in the cold air. Holly's light was a distant star, and I was losing it. Holly! The light stopped, waited. I caught up, gasping. Except it wasn't Holly, it was the lantern, the same one from cabin 4. Sitting on the ground in the middle of the trees, burning bright and steady, and around it, arranged in a circle, were more boots. Dozens of them, all empty. I spun around, trying to orient myself. Holly! Holly! Where are you? Here. Her voice came from somewhere behind me. I turned, saw her headlamp, ran toward it, reached her. She was standing perfectly still, staring at something on the ground. Marla. Look. I looked. There in the snow were our own tracks, the ones we'd made walking into the trees, but they were walking in the opposite direction now, like we'd been walking backward the whole time, like forward and backward had become meaningless. Which way is out? Holly's voice was small, scared. Which way do we go? I didn't know. I pulled out my compass again, hoping it would work this time. The needle spun wildly, then stopped, pointed straight up at the sky. That's when I heard the voice on my radio, not the creature, not dispatch. Someone else. Marla? Holly? Can you hear me? It was Sarah Mitchell, the woman from the logbook. Sarah? I keyed the radio. Where are you? Are you okay? I found the way out. I can see the lights. The parking lot. Civilization. But I can't reach it. Every time I get close, I end up back at the cabin, back at the beginning. I've been trying for so long, but maybe if we all try together? If we all walk at the same time? Where are you? Holly asked. I'm everywhere. I'm in the cabin, and in the trees, and in the clearing. I'm in every footprint I ever made up here. I'm lost in the pattern, but I can see the edges. I can see where it ends. We just have to reach it. How? Stop trying to go back. You can't go back. The only way out is forward, deeper, through the cabin, through the collection, through everything that scares you. That's where the exit is, on the other side. The other side of what? But I thought I understood. The cabin, the old one, with the figure in the doorway. It wasn't just a place. It was a threshold, a boundary between the normal world and whatever this was, and the only way out was to cross it completely, to go so deep into the wrongness that we came out the other side. That's insane, Holly said. We can't go back there. We can't. We have to, I said. She's right. We've been trying to go backward, trying to retrace our steps. But that's not how this works. We have to go forward. Forward to that thing? Forward to become part of its collection? Forward through it, past it, to whatever's on the other side. Holly was silent for a long moment. Then, okay, if we're doing this, we do it together. No matter what we see, no matter what it says, we don't stop. We walk straight through that cabin and out the other side. Deal? Deal. We turned around, found the lantern still burning in the snow, and beyond it, through the trees, we could see orange light. The cabin. Waiting. We started walking. The barefoot tracks appeared again, multiplying around us. A procession of the lost, walking with us now instead of leading us. I could almost see them, shadows at the edge of my vision, forms that dissolved when I looked directly. The cabin grew closer. The smell of wood smoke and rot grew stronger. And standing in the doorway, that figure watched us approach, waiting, patient. We reached the porch. Holly's hand found mine, squeezed hard. "Don't let go," she said. "Never." Together, we stepped through the door. The inside of the cabin was wrong in ways that defied description. The space was too large, stretching back into darkness that my headlamp couldn't penetrate. The walls were lined with things, objects, belongings, pieces of lives, backpacks, jackets, boots arranged on makeshift shelves, all of them with names written in permanent marker, tags identifying who they'd belonged to, when they'd been lost. I saw dates going back decades, centuries maybe. Names I didn't recognize and some I did. Thomas Garrett, 2015. Michelle Reeves, 2018. Names from missing persons reports, unsolved cases, rangers who'd vanished on patrol. And there, on a shelf near the door, I saw my own name. Marla Dorsey, 2024. Next to it, Holly Carver, 2024. Our gear, our backpacks, our extra clothing. All of it arranged neatly, as if we'd been here before, as if we were already part of the collection. "That's not real," Holly said, her voice shaking. "We're wearing our gear. That can't be ours." But I touched my pack, the one I was wearing. My hand passed through it like mist. I looked down at myself and saw that I was fading, becoming transparent. The cold had gotten so deep it was erasing me, turning me into another shadow, another echo in this place. "Keep moving," I said. My voice sounded distant, like I was hearing it through water. "We have to keep moving." The figure from the doorway was inside now, standing in the center of the room. Still wrong, still impossible to look at directly, but close enough that I could hear it breathing. A slow, wet sound, like lungs filled with fluid. "You came back," it said. "Just like all the others. Just like you always do, every February, every year. You walk up to cabin 4, you see the light, you follow the tracks, and you end up here, with me. Don't you remember?" I didn't. I swore I didn't. But images were flickering through my mind. Memories that couldn't be mine. Walking this same path, following these same footprints, standing in this same cabin looking at my own name on a shelf. Over and over. How many times? How many Februaries? "You're lying," Holly said, but she sounded uncertain. "Am I? Check your records. How long have you been a ranger here? When did you start?" I tried to remember. 8 years, I'd said earlier. I'd been here 8 years. But what if that was wrong? What if I'd been here longer? What if I'd been coming back to this mountain every year, replaying the same night, caught in the same pattern? "It doesn't matter," I said. "Even if that's true, we're leaving. Right now. We're walking past you and out the back of this cabin. There is no back, there's only here. Only the collection. Only the mountain's memory of every person who gave themselves to the cold. Then we'll make a back. I pulled Holly forward. Walk. Don't stop. Don't look at it. Just walk. We moved toward the far wall. The darkness there was absolute, thick as syrup, but we walked into it anyway. Our hands clasped so tightly I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. The cold was complete now. I was beyond shivering, beyond feeling, moving on pure will. The darkness wrapped around us. I could hear sounds, whispers, breathing, the soft pad of bare feet on wood. The figure was following us, or maybe we were walking through it, I couldn't tell anymore. Space had no meaning here. Then I heard Sarah's voice again on the radio. You're close. So close. I can see you, just a little farther. Sarah, where are you? I'm at the exit. I've been here the whole time, waiting, watching everyone try to leave. You're the first ones to make it this far. Don't stop now. Please don't stop. Holly stumbled. I caught her, pulled her upright. Stay with me, we're almost there. I can't feel my legs. That doesn't matter. Move them anyway. We kept walking. The darkness was pressing in, suffocating. My lungs felt full of ice. Each breath was agony. But I could see something ahead now, a gray spot in the black. Light. Real light. Dawn light. There! Sarah's voice was excited. That's it! That's the way out! We moved toward it. The gray spot grew larger, brighter. I could see details now. Trees silhouetted against a lightening sky. Real trees. Real sky. The normal world. Just on the other side of this membrane of darkness. Behind us, the figure spoke one last time. You can't leave. You never do. You'll be back. Next February, same date, same time, you always come back. Watch us, I said. We reached the gray spot, reached the light, and stepped through. The world snapped back into focus like a rubber band. Suddenly, I could feel everything. The cold, yes, but also my legs, my hands, my lungs expanding with real air. We were standing in a clearing. Not the clearing with cabin 4. A different clearing. One I recognized. It was the parking lot at the trailhead. Our trucks were there, covered in snow, and the sun was rising, painting the sky pink and gold. We'd made it out. Holly collapsed to her knees in the snow, gasping. I wanted to do the same, but forced myself to stay standing, to survey the area to make sure we were really here. My radio crackled. Real dispatch this time, not echoes or ghosts. Dorsey? Carver? Do you copy? We've been trying to reach you all night. What's your status? I pulled out the radio with shaking hands. This is Dorsey. We're at the trailhead. I didn't know how to finish that sentence. Were we okay? Were we safe? We're out. Copy that. Are you injured? Do you need medical? I looked at Holly. She looked back at me. We were both pale, exhausted, hypothermic. But we were alive. And more importantly, we were real. Solid. Present in the normal world. Negative on medical, I said. But we need to report an incident. Multiple incidents. We found evidence of missing persons. Lots of missing persons. And there's a structure up there that's not on any maps. We need to... Dorsey, slow down. You're not making sense. What structure? The old cabin. The one past cabin 4, where the barefoot tracks lead. But even as I said it, I felt the memories slipping. The details becoming fuzzy. How many cabins had we checked? What had we seen? There was something important, something wrong, but I couldn't quite grasp it. Holly grabbed my arm. Do you remember? I think so. The cabin, the figure. Sarah Mitchell. Who's Sarah Mitchell? She was in the logbook. She called us on the radio. But had she? I tried to remember. tried to hold on to the details, but they were like trying to hold water in my hands, slipping through, evaporating. Marla, Holly's voice was quiet. Look at your GPS log. I checked. The device showed our path from the night before. According to the log, we'd arrived at Cabin 4 at 9:15 p.m. We'd remained there until 6:47 a.m. We'd never left, never walked into the trees, never followed any tracks. We'd been standing in that cabin for 9.5 hours. That's not right, I said. We walked. We followed the tracks. We went to the old cabin. Did we? Holly's eyes were hollow. Or did we just stand there staring at a lantern, slowly freezing? Carbon monoxide from a faulty heater. Hypothermia playing tricks on our minds. I wanted to argue, wanted to prove that what we'd experienced was real. But the evidence said otherwise. The GPS, the timestamps, even my own memories, which were already becoming dreamlike and uncertain. We should check on Cabin 4, I said. See if the lantern's still lit. See if the logbook... No. Holly's voice was firm. No, we're not going back up there. Not today, maybe not ever. But if people are lost up there, are they? Or are they just names in a logbook that might not even exist? Marla, I don't know what happened last night. But I know we both almost died. And I know that if we go back up there right now, we might not come out again. She was right. I knew she was right. But some part of me, the part that had seen my own name on a shelf in that impossible cabin, knew there was more to it. Knew that we hadn't just imagined everything. Dispatch was calling again. Dorsey? What's your status? Do you need assistance? Negative, I said. We're coming in. We'll file a full report when we arrive. Copy that. See you soon. We loaded into Holly's truck. Mine wouldn't start. Battery dead from the cold. The drive down the mountain was silent. Both of us lost in our own thoughts, trying to reconcile what we remembered with what the evidence said had happened. When we reached the station, Sarah was waiting for us. Our supervisor. Concerned and relieved to see us. Wait, I stopped, looked at her name tag. Sarah Mitchell, supervisor. 8 years with the Park Service. Holly saw it too. I watched the color drain from her face. Welcome back, Sarah said warmly. Dispatch said you had a rough night. Are you two okay? Fine, I heard myself say. Just got turned around. Carbon monoxide maybe. Faulty heater in Cabin 4. Oh no, we'll have to get that checked. Did you log it in the cabin's maintenance book? The maintenance book? Yeah, the logbook, where you record any issues with the shelter. Did you write it down? The logbook with her name in it. Check in and check out at the same time. The message about leaving, about not being able to stay. I looked at Holly, she looked at me, and I saw the same realization in her eyes that I felt in my chest. We hadn't escaped. Not really. We'd just moved from one layer of the pattern to another. The cabin wasn't the trap. The mountain wasn't the trap. The loop was bigger than that. It was the whole job, the whole life. Coming up here every February, checking the same cabins, following the same protocols, seeing the same impossible things and forgetting them by morning. How many times had we done this? How many Februaries had we lived through, each one erasing itself, leaving only dreams and déjà vu? I'll check on it today, Sarah was saying. You two get some rest. You look exhausted. And Marla, Holly, I know it can get weird up there at night. The isolation, the cold, it messes with your head. Makes you see things that aren't there, but that's all it is, just your mind playing tricks. There's nothing up there except snow and trees and empty cabins. She smiled, a warm, genuine smile. The smile of someone who believed what she was saying, or someone who had convinced herself to believe it. "Right," I said. "Just tricks, nothing real." "Exactly. Now go home. Get warm. File your reports later. That's an order." We left, drove to our respective homes. I stood in my shower for an hour trying to wash away the cold that had settled in my bones. But it wouldn't leave. I knew it would never leave, because I understood now. The mountain didn't just collect people's bodies. It collected their patterns, their loops, their lives. And once you were part of the pattern, you couldn't escape. You could only move through it, repeating it, experiencing it from different angles. Maybe I was Marla Dorsey, Ranger, living my life day by day. Or maybe I was just one iteration of a pattern that repeated every February. One version of a story that had been told and retold so many times that the original was lost. Maybe we were all patterns, all loops, all collections of moments replaying themselves across time. I didn't know, and that uncertainty was the worst part. Not knowing if I was real or just an echo. Not knowing if tomorrow would come, or if I'd wake up back at Cabin 4, staring at a lit lantern, about to follow the same tracks all over again. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept checking my watch, watching the minutes tick by, terrified that they'd suddenly jump back, that I'd find myself starting the loop over. At 3:47 a.m., the exact time Sarah had supposedly left Cabin 4, my radio crackled to life, even though I'd turned it off, even though the battery was dead. "Hello? Is anyone there?" A voice I didn't recognize. Male. Young. Scared. "I'm lost. I can see lights in the distance. Can you help me? Please? I've been walking for so long." I picked up the radio with trembling hands. Knew I shouldn't answer. Knew that answering would pull me deeper into the pattern. But I was a ranger. It's what we do. We answer the calls. "This is Ranger Dorsey. What's your position?" "I don't know. I'm near a cabin. There's a light in the window. Should I go inside?" "No, don't go in the cabin. Stay where you are. I'm coming to get you." I hung up. Started getting dressed. Grabbed my gear. My pack. My headlamp. Everything I'd need for a night patrol. My phone rang. Holly. "Did you get a call?" Her voice was tight. "Yeah. We're not going. We can't keep doing this. Someone's lost. Someone's always lost. That's the pattern. That's the trap. If we go up there again, I know, but I have to go anyway." Silence on the other end. Then, "I'll meet you at the trailhead." "Holly, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. That's the pattern, too. I always go with you, every time, every February. I'm part of your loop, Marla, and you're part of mine." She hung up. I stood there in my apartment, gear in hand, knowing I was making the same choice I'd made 100 times before. Knowing it would lead to the same place, the same cabin, the same figure, the same realization that I couldn't escape. But I went anyway, because that's what rangers do. We go into the darkness to help the lost, even when we know we're lost too, even when we know the light we're walking toward is the same light that trapped us in the first place. I drove to the trailhead. Holly was already there, looking as exhausted and terrified as I felt. We geared up in silence, started hiking. The moon was bright, the snow was pristine, and there, about a quarter mile up the trail, I could see it. A light in a cabin window. Warm, steady, inviting. Cabin 4. Always Cabin 4. Holly's hand found mine, squeezed. "Ready?" she asked. "No, but let's go anyway." We walked toward the light, toward the cabin, toward another iteration of the same impossible night, and somewhere behind us I heard them. The soft pad of bare feet in snow, the procession of the lost, following us into the pattern. adding us to the collection, making us part of the mountain's memory. There's a sound that snow makes when it's trying to kill you. Not the roar, everyone knows about the roar, that freight train thunder of thousands of tons breaking loose and rushing downhill. No, I'm talking about the sound after. The compression, the settling, that soft, almost gentle whisper as the snow compacts around you, squeezing the air from your lungs, filling every gap, every space, every possibility of movement. It sounds like silence, but it's not. It's the loudest quiet you'll ever hear. My name is Landon Myers, and I've been with Rocky Mountain Search and Rescue for 6 years. I've dug out 11 people from avalanches in that time. 7 of them were alive, 4 weren't. You learn to tell the difference before you even clear the first foot of snow. The living make noise. Muffled, desperate noise. The dead are silent. Completely, absolutely silent. Except when they're not. This happened in March, which is when we get the worst slides. Spring snow is deceptive. It looks stable, but underneath, layers are weakening, detaching, waiting for the right trigger. A skier's wait. A loud noise. Sometimes just the sun hitting at the right angle. The call came in at 2:47 p.m. Avalanche on the northwest face of Mount Bancroft. Multiple parties reported in the area. Unknown number of victims. Paul Drayden and I were first response. Paul's been doing this for 12 years, seen everything, survived situations that should have killed him twice over. If there was anyone I wanted at my back in a slide zone, it was Paul. We mobilized fast, grabbed our gear, transceivers, probes, shovels, medical kits, and headed up in the rescue snowcat. The drive took 20 minutes, the terrain too rough for anything faster. Every second mattered. The survival rate drops exponentially after 15 minutes under the snow. After 35 minutes, it's almost 0. We were already behind the clock. The slide path was massive when we reached it. A scar of white cutting down the mountain face, maybe 300 yards wide at the crown. Debris pile at the bottom looked like a frozen ocean. Waves of snow churned into chaos. Trees snapped like toothpicks. Boulders the size of cars tossed around like pebbles. Christ, Paul muttered. That's a Class 4 easy, maybe Class 5. He was right. This wasn't some minor slough. This was a full-depth avalanche, the kind that strips everything down to bare ground. The kind that doesn't leave survivors. But our transceivers were picking up a signal. That meant someone down there was wearing a beacon. That meant there was a chance. We switched our transceivers from transmit to search mode and started scanning. The devices measured distance and direction to any other active beacon, showing us where to dig. Both our units locked onto the same signal immediately. 13 meters, Paul read from his display, bearing northeast. Let's move. We ran across the debris field, our transceivers guiding us. The snow under our feet was dense, consolidated by the force of the slide. Each step was stable, but that stability meant the person underneath was buried under concrete, hard snow. Bad news for rescue. 10 meters, 9, 8. We were getting close. I pulled out my probe, a collapsible pole used to pinpoint the exact location before we started digging. The probe could punch through snow and tell us depth and density. Essential tool. Could mean the difference between a fast rescue and a fatal delay. 6 meters, 5, should be right on top of it. We stopped. Paul was checking his transceiver, frowning. Signal's weird, keeps fluctuating. Interference. Maybe. Or the beacon's damaged. He looked at his display again. Depth reading says 3 meters down. We can work with that. 3 meters, that's about 10 feet, deep, but not impossible. We started probing, working in a grid pattern, pushing the probe down until it hit something solid. Snow has a particular resistance. A body feels different, denser but with give. You learn to tell the difference. My probe hit something on the fourth try. The resistance was right. I marked the spot and we started digging. This is where people don't understand how hard avalanche rescue is. You can't just shovel straight down. The hole would collapse. You have to dig at an angle, creating a trench that gradually reaches the victim. It takes time, it takes energy, and every second you're aware that the person down there is running out of air. We dug, fast, efficient. Paul and I had done this enough times to work in rhythm, one person shoveling while the other cleared snow away from the hole. Switch positions every 2 minutes to avoid exhaustion. Don't talk, don't waste energy, just dig. 5 minutes in, Paul stopped. You hear that? I paused, listening. At first, nothing, just the wind, the scrape of our shovels. Then I heard it. A knocking sound, muffled, coming from below. They're alive, I said. They're signaling. We dug faster. The knocking continued. Steady, 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks. The universal distress signal. Someone down there was conscious, was fighting, was alive. But something was wrong. The sound wasn't coming from where we were digging. Paul, the direction. He'd noticed it too. The knocking was off to our left, maybe 5 feet from where our probes had indicated. We checked our transceivers again. The signal was still showing the original position. 3 meters deep, right under our current excavation. But the knocking was coming from somewhere else. Could be 2 victims, Paul said. One with a beacon, one without. We find the knocking first, then come back for the signal. It made sense. We redirected, started probing toward the sound. The knocking was getting louder now, more insistent, almost frantic. Knock, 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 pause, knock, knock, knock. We hear you, I shouted. Keep making noise, we're coming. My probe hit something. Same resistance as before. Same depth, about 3 meters. We started a new trench, working toward this second target. That's when the knocking changed. It got faster, not 3 measured knocks anymore, just constant banging. Rapid, desperate. And underneath it, I could hear something else. A voice? No, not quite. More like breathing. Heavy, ragged breathing, coming through the snow. Almost there, Paul said. He was 2 feet down now, his shovel biting into the compressed snow, throwing it aside in chunks. Another meter, maybe less. The banging stopped. Complete silence. No knocking, no breathing, nothing. Hello? I called out. Can you hear us? We're right above you. Silence. We kept digging. What else could we do? Maybe they'd passed out. Maybe they'd exhausted themselves signaling. Or maybe... But I didn't want to think about that possibility. Paul's shovel hit something different. Not snow. Something harder. He scraped carefully, clearing snow away, revealing what he'd struck. It was a transceiver, just the transceiver. No person attached, no backpack, no clothing. Just the device sitting in the snow, 3 meters deep, still transmitting its signal. We stared at it. Neither of us spoke. Finally, Paul picked it up. It was still warm, like someone had just been holding it. The battery indicator showed full charge. The device was working perfectly, transmitting exactly as it should. But there was no one here. The avalanche beacon had been placed in the snow, deliberately, without a body, without a victim. This doesn't make sense, Paul said slowly. Beacons don't bury themselves. Check the serial number. See if it's registered. He turned it over, reading the code stamped on the back. Then he pulled out his phone, checking against the database we maintained of all registered beacons in the area. His face went pale. What? This beacon is registered to Kevin Morrison, ski patroller. died in a slide on this same mountain 3 years ago. They never recovered his body. The wind picked up. I felt cold that had nothing to do with the temperature. Someone found his beacon, I said. Dug it up, placed it here as what, a prank? In the middle of an active avalanche zone, who would... The knocking started again, this time from behind us, back where we'd originally been digging. We both spun around. The sound was clear now, unmistakable. 3 measured knocks. Pause, 3 knocks, coming from our first excavation site. But we checked there, Paul said. We didn't find anything. Check again, now. We ran back to the first site, grabbed our probes, started punching down into the hole we'd already dug. The probe hit something immediately. Same resistance, same depth. But we'd already dug here. We'd cleared this snow. There was nothing. Except now there was. We dug again, faster this time, throwing snow everywhere. 1 meter, 2 meters, at 2.7 meters my shovel caught something blue, fabric. I cleared around it carefully, exposing what looked like a jacket sleeve. Got them, I shouted. Paul, help me clear this. We worked together, excavating around the victim, creating space so we could pull them out. The knocking had stopped again, but that was normal. They'd hear us digging. They'd know help was close. They'd conserve energy. We cleared the snow from around their upper body. Blue jacket, yellow helmet. No movement. I reached down to check for a pulse, and my hand went through them. Not through clothing. Through them. Like they were made of smoke. My glove passed through the jacket, through what should have been a body underneath, and touched nothing but snow. I yanked my hand back. Paul. He'd seen it. Was staring at the space where a person should be. Where we'd both clearly seen a person. Felt the resistance of a body against our probes. Saw fabric and gear, and the shape of someone buried. But there was nothing there. Just the impression of a person, like a negative space in the snow. The jacket was real. I could see it, could touch it. But it was empty, completely empty. Like the person wearing it had vanished, leaving only their clothes behind. What the hell? Paul whispered. He reached down, grabbed the jacket, pulled it free. It came away easily, and underneath it there was more snow. Nothing else. Just snow. We stared at that empty jacket. Then Paul turned it over, looking for identification. There was a name tag sewn into the collar. Kevin Morrison. The same name from the beacon. The same patroller who'd died here 3 years ago. We're leaving, Paul said. His voice was shaking. Right now. We're calling this in and leaving. We can't. There might be real victims. There are no victims. This whole thing is wrong. The beacon, the knocking, the empty clothes. This isn't a rescue. This is... I don't know what this is. But we're not staying to find out. He was right. Every instinct I had was screaming to get out of this debris field, to put as much distance between us and this impossible situation as possible. But we were search and rescue. We had protocols. We had responsibilities. And our transceivers were picking up a new signal. Both devices beeped simultaneously, indicating another active beacon. This one was 20 meters away, deeper in the debris field, showing 4 meters depth. No, Paul said. No way. I'm not doing this again. What if it's real this time? What if someone's actually down there? What if it's another planted beacon? Another set of empty clothes? What if we waste time digging while a real victim is somewhere else, running out of air? He had a point, but I couldn't ignore an active beacon. Couldn't walk away knowing there might be someone alive under the snow, even if the last 2 had been... whatever they'd been. One more, I said. We check this one. If it's another fake, we call it in and evacuate. Agreed? Paul looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. One more. But we're fast, in and out. And if I see anything else that's impossible, I'm gone. You can explain to the board why you abandoned your partner. We headed toward the new signal. The debris field seemed bigger now, like it was expanding as we walked. The wind was picking up, blowing loose snow across the surface, erasing our footprints as fast as we made them. 18 meters, 16, 14. The signal was strong, steady, not fluctuating like the first one. That was good. That meant a functional beacon on a real person in real trouble. Or it meant we were being led deeper into the debris field for reasons I didn't want to think about. 10 meters, 8, 6. We were standing over it now. The transceiver showed 4 meters depth, deeper than the others. That meant more digging, more time, more chances for something else to go wrong. But I pulled out my probe anyway, started the grid search, punching down, feeling for resistance, mapping the space below. Nothing. 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 Then, contact. But the resistance was all wrong. Not like a body, not even like a piece of equipment. This was softer, yielding, almost like... I pulled the probe up. There was something on the end of it. Something dark and wet. Blood, fresh blood, running down the probe, steaming slightly in the cold air. Christ, Paul said. Did you hit them? Did the probe? It shouldn't have. The tip is blunt. It's designed not to cause injury, but there's so much blood. I wiped the probe, checked it for damage. The tip was intact, not sharp enough to cause this kind of bleeding. But the blood was real. I could smell it, that metallic copper scent. And it was still warm. We have to get them out, I said. If they're bleeding, they don't have much time. We started digging, faster than before, pushing past exhaustion. The blood kept appearing as we dug, staining the snow red, spreading in dark patches that looked black against the white. 2 meters down, 3 meters, at 3.5 meters we hit something solid. Not a person, a layer of ice. Thick, clear ice that shouldn't be here. Avalanche debris doesn't form ice. Not like this, not in solid sheets, but there it was. And below it, visible through the ice, I could see a shape, a person, facing upward, eyes open, mouth open in a silent scream. It was me. I was looking at myself through the ice, same face, same jacket, same gear. But this version of me was frozen, preserved, trapped in ice that had no business being here. Landon. Paul's voice was barely a whisper. Look at mine. He'd cleared snow a few feet away, found another patch of ice, and beneath it, frozen, just like my doppelganger, was Paul. His double stared up at us with dead eyes. We stood there, looking at ourselves, and I felt reality beginning to fracture. This wasn't possible. We were here, alive, standing on top of the avalanche debris. We couldn't also be down there, frozen, dead, unless we were wrong about which version was real. The transceiver signal changed, not one beacon anymore. Multiple signals, dozens, maybe hundreds, all around us, all showing the same depth, 4 meters, right where the ice layer was. We need to leave, Paul said, right now. We shouldn't be here. But now, Landon. He grabbed my arm, started pulling me toward the edge of the debris field. But the snow was changing, getting softer. Our feet were sinking with each step, like we were walking on quicksand. I looked down. The snow around my boots was melting, not from heat, from time. It was aging rapidly, compressing, turning to ice in seconds. And I could feel it pulling me down, pulling both of us down toward that ice layer, toward those frozen versions of ourselves, toward where we were supposed to be. Paul yanked my arm hard, breaking me free from the melting snow. We stumbled backward to more stable ground, but the whole debris field was shifting now. Small depressions forming where snow compressed and pulled inward. "Run!" Paul shouted. We ran. The avalanche debris was unstable, our feet punching through the surface. Behind us came a sound like ice cracking, like we'd disturbed something that should have stayed buried. Our transceivers went insane, constant beeping, overlapping signals. I ripped mine off and threw it aside. Paul did the same. The noise stopped, but the silence was worse, because I could hear breathing again. Ragged, desperate, all around us, coming from beneath the snow. Multiple sources. "Don't stop," Paul gasped. We were 50 meters from the edge. 40, 30. The ground was more stable here. We were going to make it. Paul stopped suddenly. I nearly crashed into him. Listen. The breathing had stopped. Everything had stopped. Complete silence. Our shadows were wrong. The sun was behind us, but our shadows stretched forward, like the light came from the wrong direction. I looked back. A figure stood in the center of the debris field, right where we'd found our frozen doubles, human-shaped but wrong, too tall, arms too long, standing impossibly still on unstable snow. "Don't look at it," Paul said. "Just walk. Slow. Steady. Why not run? Running is prey behavior." We walked, slow, measured steps. My heart hammered. The figure didn't move, just stood there, no face, no features, just a dark silhouette, 20 meters to the edge. 15. 10. The figure tilted its head, too smooth, too fluid. Then it started walking toward us. "Now we run," Paul said. We bolted toward the tree line and the snowcat. Behind us, a sliding sound. Not footsteps. Gliding. Paul went down. He didn't trip, he just stopped, like he'd hit an invisible wall. When I grabbed his arm, he wouldn't move. "I can't," he gasped. "Something's holding me." His boots were sinking. The snow was reaching up, wrapping around his ankles like hands. "Take them off!" He fumbled with the laces. His hands shook too badly. I knelt, working on the knots. The sliding sound got closer. I focused on the knots, but they tightened as I pulled. The temperature dropped. Suddenly, dramatically. Frost formed on my gloves. The knots froze solid. "Leave me," Paul said. "Get help." "I'm not leaving you." But my fingers were numb. I couldn't feel the laces anymore. The sliding sound stopped. I looked up. The figure was 10 feet away, close enough to see it wasn't made of anything solid. It was space, a hole in the world shaped like a person. "Hello, Landon," it said. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, like the air itself was speaking. "Hello, Paul." Paul made a sound. Not quite a scream. More like all the air being forced from his lungs at once. "You shouldn't be here," the figure continued. "This isn't your avalanche. Your time hasn't come yet. 3 years from now. That's when you're supposed to die here. That's when you're supposed to join us under the ice." 3 years. Kevin Morrison had died 3 years ago. On this same mountain. In an avalanche that Paul and I had responded to. That we'd tried to rescue him from. That we'd failed. "You were there," the figure said. "You dug. You searched. You heard him knocking from under the snow. You found his beacon. But you didn't find him in time. He died while you were digging in the wrong place, listening to sounds that came from somewhere else." I remembered. God help me, I remembered. We'd responded to a slide on the northwest face. 1 victim, active beacon. We'd followed the signal, started digging, but we'd heard knocking from a different location. We'd redirected. Wasted, precious minutes. By the time we got back to the original signal, it was too late. Kevin Morrison had suffocated under the snow while we chased sounds that led us astray. The investigation had ruled it equipment malfunction, acoustic distortion from the snow. Tragic, but not our fault. But we'd always wondered, always questioned. What if we'd ignored the knocking? What if we'd trusted the beacon? What if we'd dug just a little faster? He's been waiting, the figure said, under the ice, under the snow, waiting for you to come back, waiting to show you what it was like. The cold, the darkness, the sounds of rescue getting farther away instead of closer. The moment you realize no one's coming, that you're going to die alone under the mountain. We tried, Paul said. His voice was breaking. We did everything we could. Did you? Or did you let doubt slow you down? Did you let fear make you hesitate? Did you waste time questioning when you should have been digging? I didn't have an answer, because the truth was, we had hesitated, we had questioned, we'd heard that knocking and doubted our equipment, doubted our training, doubted ourselves, and that doubt had cost Kevin Morrison his life. So now you get to experience it, the figure said. You get to know what it's like to be buried, to call for help and have no one come, to feel the snow pressing down, filling your lungs, freezing you from the inside out. You get to become part of the mountain, part of the ice, part of me. The snow around Paul's boots was up to his knees now, climbing higher. He was being pulled down into the mountain just like Kevin had been, just like we were always supposed to be. No, I said. I stood up, faced the figure, faced that impossible void shaped like a person. I'm not letting you take him. I'm not letting you take either of us. You don't have a choice. This is your avalanche, your death. It's already happened. We're just living through it now. Bullshit. If we were already dead, we wouldn't be having this conversation. If this was inevitable, you wouldn't need to explain it to us. You'd just do it. The figure tilted its head again. That wrong, fluid motion. Smart, but it doesn't matter. Look around you, Landon. What do you see? I looked. The landscape had changed. We weren't on the edge of the debris field anymore. We were in the middle of it, surrounded by snow and ice, and that frozen silence. The tree line was gone. The snowcat was gone. It was just us and the snow and the thing that wore Kevin Morrison's death like a coat. You've been under the ice this whole time, the figure said. Ever since you arrived at the Avalanche. Ever since you switched your transceivers to search mode. That's when you joined us. That's when you crossed over. Then how are we still breathing? How are we still talking? Because dying under an avalanche takes time. The oxygen in your air pocket runs out slowly. Minutes, sometimes hours. Your brain doesn't shut off all at once. It dreams. It creates scenarios. It tries to make sense of the cold and the dark and the pressure. This conversation. This is your brain trying to rationalize what's happening to your body, trying to give meaning to your death. No, that wasn't right. I remembered getting the call, remembered driving up in the snowcat, remembered the whole sequence of events clearly. This wasn't a dying dream. This was real, except when had we switched our transceivers to search mode? I tried to remember the exact moment, tried to recall the specific action of flipping the switch, but the memory was fuzzy, indistinct, like trying to remember a dream. You're lying, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. Am I? Then explain the beacons. Explain the empty clothes. Explain how you saw yourself frozen under the ice. Explain any of this without admitting that you're not where you think you are. Paul had stopped struggling. The snow was up to his waist now, but he wasn't fighting anymore, just staring at nothing, his face slack. "Paul? Paul!" "He understands now," the figure said. "He's accepting it, the cold, the end. You should too, it'll be easier." "Fuck you." I grabbed Paul's shoulders, shook him hard. "Paul, listen to me. We're not dead, we're not under the ice. This thing is messing with our heads, trying to make us give up. Don't give up. Please don't give up." Paul blinked, focused on me. "Landon, I can't feel my legs. I can't. That's the cold. That's hypothermia. But we can fight it. We can get out of this." "How?" "You heard what it said. We've been under the ice this whole time. We're dying right now. Our real bodies are somewhere under this snow, running out of air. And this is just our brains shutting down. No, that's what it wants us to believe. But if we were really dying, we wouldn't know it. We wouldn't be conscious. This is real. We're really here, and we're getting out." I pulled on Paul, trying to lift him from the snow, but he was too heavy, or the snow had too strong a grip, or I was too weak. I couldn't tell anymore. My own legs were feeling unstable, numb, like they were falling asleep, like they were freezing. "You can't save him," the figure said. "Just like you couldn't save Kevin. The mountain doesn't let go. It doesn't forgive. It just takes and takes and takes until there's nothing left but ice and memory and empty clothes in the snow." I looked at my hands. They were pale. Too pale. Frost was forming on my gloves, creeping up my wrists. I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. Couldn't feel much of anything. The figure was right. We were dying. Had been dying since the moment we entered the Avalanche zone. Everything since then. The beacons, the digging, the discoveries. It was all our brains trying to process the end. Trying to find meaning in meaninglessness. But then why did it hurt? Why could I still feel pain in my chest, my lungs, my freezing extremities? Why was my brain manufacturing suffering if this was just a dying dream? Unless suffering was the point. Unless this was punishment. For Kevin, for not saving him, for being too slow, too uncertain, too human. "Let go," the figure said. Its voice was almost kind now. "Just let go, stop fighting, join us under the ice, join the mountain, join—" A sound cut through the air. Sharp, mechanical, familiar, a beacon, a real beacon, transmitting from somewhere above us. The figure recoiled, that smooth, fluid motion becoming jerky. "Wrong." "No," it said. "No, they can't. They're not supposed to." Another beacon, then another. Multiple signals converging on our location. I could hear engines now. Snowmobiles. Voices calling out. Real voices. Human voices. Active signals in the debris field. 2 Rangers down. Get the medical kit. The landscape flickered. For just a moment I saw through it. Saw the real debris field. Saw myself and Paul lying in the snow, partially buried. Our transceivers still transmitting. Saw a rescue team working toward us. Saw reality bleeding through the illusion. "You're being rescued," I said to the figure. "Right now. We're being pulled out. This whole thing, it wasn't real. It was shock, hypothermia, our brains shutting down. But they found us in time. We're not dying today." "No," the figure said. But its voice was weaker now, fading. "You can't leave. You have to stay. You have to pay. We already paid. We live with Kevin every day. We live with every person we couldn't save. That's our punishment. That's our burden. But we're not dying with them, not today." The world snapped back into focus. Sharp. Painful. Real. I was lying on my back in the snow. My whole body ached. I was cold, colder than I'd ever been, but I could feel it, Could feel my chest rising and falling. Could feel hands on me, people working to get me free from the snow. Got a pulse. Responsive, but hypothermic. Get them loaded now. I turned my head. Paul was next to me, also being extracted. His eyes were open. He looked at me and nodded slightly. Alive. We were both alive. The rescue team got us loaded onto sleds, started hauling us toward the snowmobiles. As they pulled me away from the debris field, I looked back one more time. There was someone standing at the edge of the avalanche zone. Human-shaped, too tall, arms too long, watching us leave. But as I blinked, it was gone. Just a trick of the light. Just shadows and snow and my oxygen-deprived brain trying to make patterns where there were none. Just Kevin Morrison's ghost, letting us go. For now. They got us down to the medical tent in 20 minutes. Heated blankets, hot liquids, oxygen, standard hypothermia protocol. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the cup. Paul was worse. His core temperature had dropped to 93 degrees. Another hour, and we'd be dead. But we weren't. We were here, safe, real. The incident commander, Lisa Torres, came to debrief us. She looked worried, which wasn't like her. What happened out there? Paul and I exchanged glances. What could we tell her? Planted beacons. Seeing ourselves frozen, a figure that tried to convince us we were already dead. Equipment malfunction, Paul said. Multiple false signals. We got disoriented, stayed out too long, hypothermia set in, started hallucinating. A lie, but a lie that made sense. Lisa nodded slowly. Your transceivers malfunctioned. Both picked up phantom signals. We found them 30 meters from where you collapsed. Why take them off? They showed impossible readings, I said. Hundreds of signals, all at the same depth. We thought they were broken. Smart call. Probably saved your lives. If you'd kept following those signals, you would have gone deeper. She paused. We did recover one other beacon, though. Old model. Found it 3 meters down, right where your first excavation was. Morrison's beacon. It had been real. Was there a body? Paul asked. No, just the beacon. Buried like someone placed it there. We're running the serial number. I already knew what she'd find. Lisa stood. Get rest. You're both on medical leave. And guys, when we got your distress signal, when we saw you'd stopped moving, we thought we were doing a recovery. We've lost too many to this mountain. She left. Paul and I sat in silence. Finally, he spoke. Did that really happen? The hypothermia was real. The hallucinations were probably real. But the rest, the figure, the voices, the ice, could have been our brains shutting down. Could have been. Paul pulled the blanket tighter. But you saw it too. Everything I saw, you saw. Shared hallucination. I didn't have an answer. Morrison's beacon was there, I said. Lisa confirmed it. 3 meters down. How? Exposed by the avalanche. Buried 3 years, finally uncovered. Maybe, but it was warm. Battery charged, still transmitting. Beacons can last years. Not 3 years buried in snow. Paul was quiet. You think he's still out there? Under the ice? We never found his body. What if we were looking in the wrong place? What do you mean? What if he's not at the bottom? What if the slide didn't carry him down? What if he's still up there? Right where we were today, under that ice layer we saw. I didn't want to think about that. Didn't want to imagine Kevin Morrison trapped in ice, preserved, waiting. But the image was already in my head. That frozen face looking up through clear ice, those open eyes, that silent scream. Even if he is, I said slowly, what could we do about it? We can't go back. Not after this, we'd never get clearance. I know, but I keep thinking, if it were me under there, if I'd died calling for help while my rescuers dug in the wrong place, would I be able to let that go? Would my body just lie there peacefully? Or would some part of me stay angry, stay desperate, stay conscious enough to what? Haunt the avalanche zone? Make rescuers experience what you experienced? Is that so impossible after what we saw today? I wanted to say yes, wanted to dismiss it as trauma and oxygen deprivation and the power of suggestion. But I couldn't, because I'd seen too much, felt too much. And some part of me, some deep primal part, knew that we hadn't just hallucinated out there. We'd encountered something that wore Kevin Morrison's death like a mask, something that wanted us to understand, or maybe something that wanted us to join it. Over the next few days, we both underwent medical evaluation. Physically, we were fine. Some minor frostbite on our extremities, some muscle strain from the digging, but nothing serious, nothing that wouldn't heal. Psychologically was a different story. The counselor they assigned us asked careful questions about our experience, about what we remembered, about whether we'd seen or heard anything unusual. We both gave the same answer: equipment malfunction, hypothermia, standard hallucinations. Nothing unusual, nothing that couldn't be explained. The counselor didn't believe us. I could see it in her eyes, but she couldn't prove otherwise. And without proof, she had to clear us for duty. A week after the incident, Lisa called us into her office. "The serial number on that beacon came back," she said. "It's registered to Kevin Morrison, the same Kevin Morrison who died in 2021 in an avalanche on Mount Bancroft." "That's where we were," Paul said. "Same mountain, same general area." "I know, which raises the question, how did his beacon end up buried 3 meters deep in fresh avalanche debris? That slide happened last week. Morrison died 3 years ago." Neither of us had an answer. Lisa leaned back in her chair. "There's something else. We did a historical review of rescue operations on Mount Bancroft, specifically operations in that northwest face area. Do you know how many teams have reported equipment malfunctions there?" "How many?" 7. Over the past 3 years. All of them reported phantom signals, false positives, strange readings. 2 teams reported hearing knocking sounds that led them away from real victims. 1 team reported seeing a figure in the debris field that vanished when they approached. The room felt colder suddenly. All of them were responding to avalanches in the same area, Lisa continued. All of them reported similar experiences, and all of them were searching for Kevin Morrison when he died. Paul and I were part of that original search team. We'd been there the day Morrison was buried. We'd heard the knocking. We'd followed the false signals. We'd failed to find him in time. "What are you saying?" I asked. "I'm saying there's a pattern. Something about that area affects rescue operations. Equipment, perception, decision-making. I don't know if it's magnetic interference, acoustic distortion, or something else, but it's consistent, and it's dangerous. So what do we do? I'm recommending that area be marked as high risk. Future rescue operations will require additional protocols, backup teams, redundant equipment, no 2-person teams operating alone. And," she hesitated, "I'm also recommending we conduct one more search for Kevin Morrison." "We searched for weeks," Paul said. "We covered every inch of that debris field." "I know, but we never checked under the ice layer at the 4-meter depth, because we didn't know there was an ice layer there. But if your experience was real, if you really saw ice under the snow, then maybe that's where he is. Maybe that's where he's been this whole time." The thought of going back there made my stomach turn. But Lisa was right. If there was any chance Morrison was still up there, we owed it to him to look. We owed it to his family. We owed it to ourselves. When? I asked. Next week. We'll bring ground-penetrating radar, thermal imaging, the full kit. If he's there, we'll find him. And if he's not, she shrugged, then at least we'll know for sure. The week passed slowly. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure standing in the snow, heard that voice telling me I was already dead, felt the cold seeping into my bones. Paul called me 3 days before the scheduled search. I had a dream last night about Morrison. What kind of dream? He was standing at the foot of my bed, just standing there watching me. And he said, "Thank you for coming back, for trying again." And then he was gone. I'd had the same dream, hadn't told anyone. But knowing Paul had experienced it too made it real in a way I couldn't deny. "Do you think he's still conscious?" I asked. "Under the ice? Aware of what's happening?" "I don't know. I don't know if consciousness can survive like that. If some part of us can remain aware after death. But something is up there. Something that knows us, that remembers what happened. And I think it's been waiting for us to come back." The day of the search arrived cold and clear. Perfect conditions. No wind, no storm. Just bright sun and endless white snow. The team assembled at the base of Mount Bancroft. Lisa, Paul, me, and 4 other experienced rescuers. We had the best equipment available. Radar that could see through snow and ice. Thermal cameras that could detect body heat, or the absence of it, from meters away. GPS that couldn't be fooled by magnetic interference. We hiked up to the northwest face, to the area where Paul and I had nearly died, where Kevin Morrison had vanished 3 years ago, where something had tried to make us understand what it meant to be buried alive. The avalanche debris from our incident had partially cleared. Wind and sun had eroded the surface, exposing older layers underneath. But the basic topography was the same shapes, the same density, the same feeling of wrongness that made my skin crawl. "Let's set up the radar first," Lisa said. "Get a baseline reading of the subsurface, then we'll use thermal to verify any anomalies." The team got to work, unfolding the ground-penetrating radar array, calibrating the sensors. I stood back, watching, remembering. This was where we'd found the first beacon. This was where we'd dug. This was where everything had gone wrong. Landon. Paul was standing a few meters away, looking at something on the ground. "Come here." I walked over. He was pointing at the snow. At first, I didn't see what he was indicating. Then I did. Footprints, barefoot impressions, leading away from our position toward the deeper part of the debris field. "Those weren't there a minute ago," Paul said quietly. "I was just standing here, the snow was smooth. And then I looked away for a second, looked back, and there they were." I knelt, examined the prints. They were perfect, too perfect, just like the ones we'd seen before, stamped into the snow with mechanical precision. "Don't tell the others," I said. "Not yet. Let them finish their scan. If we tell them now, if we admit we're seeing impossible things again, they'll abort the search." Paul nodded, but his hand went to the knife on his belt, a gesture of uncertainty, of fear. The radar team finished their setup, started the scan. The device sent electromagnetic waves into the snow, measuring how they bounced back, creating a 3-dimensional image of what lay beneath. Lisa was watching the monitor. "We're getting something. 4 meters down, large anomaly. Could be rock, could be ice, could be a body," one of the techs finished. "Let's verify with thermal." Lisa pulled out the infrared camera, aimed it at the same spot. The screen showed temperature gradients, color-coded from blue to red. Most of the snow was uniform blue, cold, homogeneous. But at the 4-meter depth, there was a spot of green. "That's warmer than ambient," the tech said. "Not much, maybe a few degrees, but enough to register." "How is that possible?" Lisa asked. "Nothing buried for 3 years would still be generating heat." "It shouldn't be," the tech agreed, "unless there's geothermal activity, or..." He trailed off. "Or what? Or something down there is alive." The team went silent. Then someone laughed nervously. "That's impossible. No one could survive 3 years under the snow." "I know, but the thermal reading doesn't lie. Something down there is warmer than it should be." Lisa made a decision. "We dig, carefully, document everything. If we find remains, we treat it as a recovery operation. Full protocol, everyone understand?" We understood. We set up our excavation site, marked the boundaries, started the careful process of removing snow. Not the frantic digging of a rescue, the methodical, respectful process of a recovery. 1 meter down, 2 meters, 3 meters. At 3.8 meters, we hit ice, not frozen snow, not compressed powder. Ice, clear, solid ice that had no business being there. Just like Paul and I had described. Just like the counselor had dismissed as hypothermic hallucination. But here it was. Real. Undeniable. Lisa stared at it. "This doesn't make geological sense. This depth, this clarity. Ice like this forms over decades, not years. Should we stop?" one of the rescuers asked. "No, we keep going, but carefully. If there's a body under this ice, we need to preserve it as much as possible." We got out ice axes, started chipping away at the surface. The ice was thick, 6 inches, maybe more. But we worked slowly, creating a window, a clear spot where we could see what lay beneath. And there he was, Kevin Morrison, perfectly preserved, lying on his back, arms at his sides, eyes open, mouth open, just like in our vision, just like we'd seen through the ice when we were dying. Except he wasn't frozen in a scream. He was frozen mid-breath, like he'd been taking a breath when the ice had formed around him, like he'd been alive when it happened. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered. Lisa was on her radio immediately. "Command, this is Torres. We have a confirmed body recovery. Kevin Morrison, deceased. We're going to need the coroner up here, and someone from the Geological Survey. There's something very strange about this site." We kept working, cleared more ice, exposed more of the body. His gear was intact, his clothes undamaged. Even his transceiver was still strapped to his chest, the indicator light blinking green, still active. After 3 years, after the battery should have died months ago. One of the techs reached down to retrieve it. The moment his fingers touched the device, it spoke. Morrison's voice, clear, recent, like he'd recorded it yesterday. "To whoever finds this, thank you for coming back. Thank you for not giving up. I'm sorry for what I put you through. I'm sorry for the fear, the confusion, the doubt. I didn't mean to. I needed you to understand what it was like, the cold, the dark, the sounds of rescue getting farther away. I needed you to feel it, just for a moment, just long enough to know." The recording paused. Then, "I'm not angry. I know you did your best. I know you tried. But I've been down here so long, trapped, aware, listening to the mountain, becoming part of it. And the mountain, it remembers. It keeps records. It preserves things. Not just bodies. Memories. Experiences. moments of death. And sometimes it plays them back for people who get too close, for people who need to understand. Another pause, longer this time. I'm ready now, ready to let go, ready to stop replaying that day over and over. Thank you for finding me, thank you for bringing me home, and please, don't blame yourselves. This wasn't your fault. It was just bad luck, bad timing, the mountain making its choice. The recording ended. The transceiver went dark. The battery finally dying. The message delivered. We stood there in silence. 7 people who'd just heard a dead man thank us for our failure, for our success, for finding him too late and right on time. The extraction took 4 hours. Getting Morrison's body out of that ice without damaging it required patience and precision. The whole time, I felt watched. Not by the team, by something else. Something in the mountain. Something that had been waiting for this moment. When we finally got him loaded onto the sled, the temperature dropped. Suddenly. Dramatically. From 15 degrees to 0 in seconds. Our breath frosted in thick clouds. Ice formed on our gear. Weather turning, Lisa said. We need to move fast. We started down. But the mountain wasn't done with us yet. The snow under our feet started shifting. Small movements at first, settling, adjusting, then bigger. Whole sections of the slope sliding, grinding, threatening to break loose. Secondary slide risk, one of the techs called out. The debris field is unstable. We need to... A crack echoed across the mountain. Sharp, loud, the sound of something breaking, something giving way. Move! Now! We ran, pulled the sled as fast as we could. Behind us I could hear it, that sound I'd heard before. The sliding, the gliding, something following us down. But this time it wasn't pursuing, it was escorting, making sure we got out, making sure we brought Morrison home. The slope held, barely. We made it to stable ground just as a massive section of the debris field cut loose behind us, sliding down the mountain in a roar of snow and ice. But the avalanche stopped at the boundary, stopped exactly where we'd been standing. Like it had been released on purpose, like something had control. We got Morrison down to the medical tent. The coroner was waiting. He examined the body, took notes, made official pronouncements. Time of death, 3 years ago. Cause of death, asphyxiation due to avalanche burial. Condition of remains, remarkably well preserved due to ice formation. Nothing unusual. Nothing that couldn't be explained by natural processes and environmental conditions. Except for the transceiver. The one that had been transmitting for 3 years on a battery that should have died in months. The one that had delivered Morrison's message from beyond death. The coroner couldn't explain that. Neither could the equipment manufacturer when we sent it to them for analysis. The device was functioning perfectly. No defects, no anomalies. Just a standard avalanche beacon that had somehow maintained power and recording capability long past its designed specifications. The official report called it unexplained but not supernatural. A statistical anomaly. One of those rare cases where equipment performs beyond expectations due to ideal environmental conditions. The unofficial report, the one Lisa, Paul, and I kept to ourselves, had a different conclusion. Something on that mountain had kept Morrison's beacon alive. Had used it to communicate. Had recorded that message and waited 3 years for someone to hear it. Morrison's family held a funeral. Open casket, he looked like he was sleeping. Peaceful. Finally at rest. His mother thanked us personally. Said she'd always known he was up there somewhere. Always knew he hadn't just vanished. Having his body back, having proof, having closure, meant everything. I didn't tell her about the recordings. about the phantom signals, about the figure made of nothing that had tried to make us understand her son's death. Some things families don't need to know. Paul and I attended the funeral together, stood at the back, listened to the eulogies, watched as they lowered Morrison into the ground. Real ground this time, not snow and ice. Permanent. Final. As we were leaving, an old man approached us. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. "You're the Rangers who found Kevin," he said. Not a question. A statement. "Yes, sir," Paul replied. "I'm Harold Morrison, Kevin's grandfather. I worked search and rescue in these mountains for 30 years. Responded to over 100 avalanches, pulled out 43 people alive, lost 12, including my own grandson." "We're sorry," I started to say, but he held up a hand. "Don't be. You did something I never could. You brought him home, you gave my daughter closure, and he looked at us intently. You survived the mountains test. Not everyone does. Test? This mountain has been taking people for 100 years. Miners, trappers, skiers, rescuers. It doesn't discriminate. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, it gives you a choice. Understand or die. Learn or join. Kevin understood too late. But you two, you figured it out in time. What did we figure out? That death isn't always the end. That some places remember. That the mountain keeps records in ice and snow and silence. And that sometimes, if you listen carefully enough, you can hear what it's trying to tell you." He handed us a photograph, black and white, faded, showing a group of rescuers standing in front of a cabin. The date on the back read 1985. "That's me," Harold said, pointing to a young man in the photo. "And that's my team. We were doing winter training, learning avalanche rescue protocols. We responded to a slide that day, found a beacon, dug for hours, heard knocking, heard voices, heard everything you probably heard. But we didn't find anyone, just equipment, just clothes, just signs that someone had been there. What happened to them? They found us 3 days later, all of us, standing in a circle around the beacon, frozen, hypothermic, barely alive. They said we'd been out there for 72 hours, but we only remembered a few hours. Lost time, lost memory, and every single one of us insisted we'd heard someone calling for help, someone we couldn't reach." He took the photo back. "Most of my team retired after that. Couldn't do rescue work anymore. Too afraid they'd hear those voices again. But I stayed, kept working, because I understood something that day. The mountain isn't evil. It's not trying to kill us. It's just remembering. Every person who dies up there becomes part of its memory. And sometimes, when conditions are right, when rescuers get close enough, the mountain plays those memories back, shows us what happened, makes us feel it." "Why?" I asked. "What's the point?" "Understanding. Empathy. The mountain wants us to know what we're dealing with, what we're risking, what the people we're trying to save are experiencing. It's not cruel, it's educational. Harsh, yes. Traumatic, absolutely. But necessary. Because if you don't understand what death in the snow means, really, viscerally understand it, you'll make mistakes. You'll hesitate. You'll fail. Just like we failed Kevin." Paul and I stood there, processing this. Finally, I asked, "Did you ever hear the voices again, after that first time?" Harold nodded. "Every avalanche, every rescue. I hear them, the voices of everyone who died on this mountain. All of them calling for help, all of them trying to guide me. And sometimes they lead me to real victims. Sometimes they show me where to dig. And sometimes they just want me to remember them, to know they were here, that they mattered. That sounds like torture. It is. But it's also a gift, because I've never lost anyone else. Not in 30 years. Everyone I've dug for since that day, I've brought back alive. The voices help me. The mountain helps me. As long as I listen. As long as I understand. He turned to leave, then paused. You'll hear them too now. Both of you. For the rest of your careers. Maybe the rest of your lives. The mountain marked you when you went up there after Kevin. It showed you its memories. Made you part of its record. And now you're connected. Linked. You'll know things you shouldn't know. Hear things others can't hear. And you'll save lives because of it. But you'll also carry the weight of every death you witness. Every failure. Every person you can't reach in time. Is there a way to make it stop? Yes. Quit. Walk away. Never go near an avalanche zone again. The connection will fade. The voices will stop. You'll be free. He smiled sadly. But you won't quit. I can see it in your eyes. Same look I had. Same stubborn determination. You need to understand, need to help, need to bring people home, even when it costs you everything. He walked away, disappearing into the crowd of mourners. I never saw him again. But his words stayed with me. Over the next few months, Paul and I returned to work, resumed our rescue operations, responded to calls, saved lives. And we heard the voices, just like Harold said we would. Whispers in the snow, knocking from impossible locations, breathing that came from nowhere and everywhere. But now we understood. Now we knew what they were. Not hallucinations, not malfunctions, memories. The mountain's way of showing us where to dig, how to help, where the real victims were versus where the echoes led. We became better rescuers, faster, more accurate. Our success rate went up. Lisa noticed, started pairing us on the most difficult calls, the ones where other teams had failed, the ones where hope was fading, and we brought people home, one after another, following the voices, trusting the mountain, understanding its language. But there was a cost. Paul started having nightmares, seeing the faces of people we'd rescued staring at him from under ice. Hearing them thank him in Morrison's voice. He lost weight, started drinking. His wife threatened to leave if he didn't get help. I wasn't much better. I'd stopped sleeping normally. Would wake up at 3 a.m. convinced I heard knocking. Would check my transceiver obsessively, making sure it was off, making sure it wasn't picking up phantom signals. My apartment started feeling like a tomb. Cold, isolated. Like I was already buried. 6 months after Morrison's funeral, Lisa called us into her office. I'm taking you both off active Avalanche response, she said. Not asking, telling. Why? Paul demanded. Our numbers are the best they've ever been. We're saving people. You're destroying yourselves. Lisa's voice was firm but kind. I've watched it happen before. To Harold Morrison, to others. You get too connected, too invested. The mountain gets into your head and doesn't let go. And eventually, it kills you. Not with an avalanche. With exhaustion, depression. Mistakes born from sleep deprivation and trauma. I'm not letting that happen to you. So what, we're benched? Temporarily. You take 6 months. Rest, recover. Get counseling, reconnect with the world outside these mountains. And if, after 6 months, you still want to come back, we'll talk. But right now, you're both compromised. And compromised rescuers don't save lives, they lose them. She was right. We both knew it. But knowing it didn't make it easier. I spent those 6 months trying to be normal. Took a trip to the coast, visited family, tried to remember what life was like before I'd heard the mountain speak. But everywhere I went, I felt it. That absence. That silence where the voices should be. Like I was missing a sense I'd learned to rely on. Paul had it worse. He moved to Denver, got a job with the fire department. Refused to even look at mountains on the horizon. Said he was done. Said he'd heard enough. Said he was choosing life over death. I was happy for him. Really. But part of me knew he'd be back. The mountain doesn't let go that easily. Once you've heard its voices, once you've become part of its memory, you're connected forever. The 6 months ended. I returned to work. Lisa evaluated me, decided I was stable enough to resume limited duties. Not avalanche response, not yet, but other aspects of search and rescue. Lost hikers, injured climbers. The calls that didn't involve snow and ice and voices from the dead. It wasn't the same. I was helping people, yes, but I felt disconnected. Like I was going through the motions without really understanding. The mountain had taught me a language, and now I was being told to forget it, to pretend I didn't understand. 1 year after Morrison's funeral, on the anniversary of his death, I went back to Mount Bancroft, hiked up to the northwest face, stood at the edge of the old avalanche zone. The mountain was quiet. No voices, no whispers, just wind and snow and the normal sounds of wilderness. But then I heard it. Faint. Almost imperceptible. A single voice, Morrison's voice. Thank you for listening. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for bringing me home. And then softer, there are others. Still waiting, still calling. They need someone who understands. Someone who can hear them. Someone like you. I stood there for a long time, thinking about Harold Morrison. About Paul. About all the people who'd heard the mountain speak and walked away. About the ones who'd stayed and been destroyed by what they'd learned. About the choice I had to make. In the end, there wasn't really a choice. Not for me. I'd heard the voices, I'd learned the language, I understood what the mountain was trying to teach. And there were people out there, trapped, dying, calling for help, who needed someone who could hear them. I radioed Lisa, told her I was ready to return to avalanche response, ready to listen to the mountain again, ready to bring people home. She was quiet for a long time, then, okay, but you're not going alone. I'm assigning you a new partner, someone young, someone who needs to learn, and you're going to teach them everything Harold taught you. Everything the mountain taught you. You're going to make sure the knowledge doesn't die with your generation. Understood. And Landon, when it gets too heavy, when the voices get too loud, when you feel yourself slipping, you tell me. You step back. You survive. Because the mountain will always be there, will always need rescuers. But it doesn't need dead heroes. It needs living ones. People who can hear its language and not be destroyed by it. Can you do that? I'll try. That's all any of us can do. I've been back on avalanche response for 2 years now. My new partner, Amy, is learning fast. She hears things sometimes. Whispers, knocking. And I teach her to listen, to understand, to use the voices as guides. We save lives. Follow the mountain's memory to places other teams wouldn't think to look. Sometimes, on quiet nights, I hear Morrison's voice on my transceiver. Still thanking me. Still guiding me. Harold was right. The mountain doesn't let go. But it teaches. It remembers. It shows you what matters. Paul came back last month. Said Denver was too quiet. Said he was ready to listen again. Lisa put him with me. We went out yesterday, avalanche on the northwest face. Same area, same mountain, different victim, same voices, same knocking, same mountain memory, and we found them. 42 minutes after the slide. Alive. As we loaded them into the sled, Paul looked at me. "Did you hear?" "Yeah. Morrison, the others, showing us where to dig. Does it ever get easier?" I thought about Harold working 30 years with voices in his head, about all the rescuers who'd heard the mountain speak. "No," I said, "it never gets easier, but it gets clearer. You learn to separate memory from reality, echo from truth, and you use it to save lives, to bring people home." Paul nodded. "I can live with that." We loaded our gear, started down, and behind us, from the avalanche zone, I heard it again. Morrison's voice, thanking us, guiding us, promising he'd be there next time. The mountain remembers, the mountain teaches, the mountain never lets go. And now, neither do we.